Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Grand Line's Lord of Shadows. Chapter 81. At dusk, the west blue shore of the Ship of Terror. William came here with Wappa, Robin, Perona, Van Oka and others. Lord William, has a new special zombie been born? That guy, seems to be the legendary dragon-slaying warrior, right? Tisk tisk, I'm really looking forward to it. It's not just the zombie army led by zombie generals such as Wong Lun, John, and Silver Axe. Even the demon Oz, who was sleeping soundly in the forest, followed the news with some curiosity. He stared at the swordsman Ryoma with burning eyes, exuding a proud fighting spirit. Brush. A pair of shadow wings emerged. The shadow mage spread his wings directly and flew over the sea. Go, Ryoma, let me see the true strength of your great swordsman. William crossed his arms and said to the swordsman Ryoma who was following him. As you wish, Lord William. The swordsman Ryoma held the famous sword Chushui tightly and slowly pulled it out. Ha, it's been a long time. Chushui. A frightening cold light flashed. The black sword Chushui, which has a zigzag pattern and is completely black, has already been unsheathed. An extremely fierce aura emanated from the swordsman Ryoma. Moonwalk. He pressed his foot down. The figure ejected directly. Continuously stepping into the atmosphere, bursts of white smoke came out from feet. The whole person rose into the air and rushed towards the shadow mage who was his opponent. Tempest kick Lan Duan. No hesitation. Shadow mage took action directly. His right foot was like lightning and he kicked out violently. A loud roar broke through the air. A huge light green slash tore through the atmosphere. Rushing toward the swordsman Ryoma. Itoku Ryu Moonlight. In an instant, a cold light flashed. The swordsman Ryoma's eyes were extremely sharp, and the black sword Chushui suddenly swung out. Call out. A huge crescent-shaped slash shot through the air like lightning. Boom. The force was like breaking bamboo, directly crushing the crescent-shaped slash that came suddenly. Although the power was greatly reduced, it still blasted hard at the shadow mage in front. People can't help but change their color in shock. Boom boom. Tempest kick Lan ran. All I saw was lightning and flint. The shadow mage was so fast that he narrowly dodged the violent slash. But it did not retreat, its feet were like electricity. Continuously kicking out. The sound of breaking through the air continued. One shocking slash after another. Like a violent storm, it tore apart the atmosphere one after another. Coming towards the swordsman Ryoma to kill. Scalp tingling. Itoryu Philong. The swordsman Ryoma's expression remained unchanged. His eyes were as sharp as a hawk, staring directly at the chop waves that kept coming. The black sword Chu Shui in his hand was raised high, and his whole person exuded a powerful and fierce aura. Kai. The next moment, a black cold light shot out diagonally. The extremely fierce slash turned into a lifelike huge flying dragon at a speed visible to the naked eye. Roar. Baring his teeth and claws, he roared out with a powerful momentum like a rainbow. Unstoppable. Destroy the ancients. The continuous and murderous slashing waves were directly crushed and swallowed up mercilessly. The power of castration continued unabated, and he attacked the mage without mercy. Quote. Key. The sea is boiling and raging. A huge trench appeared there. At a speed visible to the naked eye, it slowly closes and recovers. People can't help but be a little shocked. Hi. Ryoma's swordsmanship. Hogba Gu opened his mouth wide and couldn't help but exclaimed, it's more than 10 times better than Lord William at that time. He could remember that when William first cut off the shadow of the swordsman Ryoma and absorbed it into his body, he had demonstrated Shimotsuki Ryoma's swordsmanship. However, the power is completely different. Not on the same level at all. Of course, Sir William's swordsmanship is not even a little bit better than before. His shadow is naturally stronger. Perona said their seed. No, it's not just this reason. After seeing this scene in full view, William shook his head directly. Under the leadership of my split shadow, the shadow of the swordsman Ryoma cooperated with the instinct of his corpse, exerting a power infinitely close to that of his life. This undoubtedly shows his guess was correct and the experiment was successful. Fusing the shadow of the strong man's corpse with the split shadow, and then resurrecting the zombie, can exert a combat power that is infinitely close to that in life. Moreover, the swordsman Ryoma not only possesses swordsmanship and combat experience during his lifetime. He also has physical skills in hockey that are infinitely close to those of Obask William himself. The strength is far beyond that of ordinary zombies. Tisk, tisk, it's true. Robin was amazed. She really didn't expect that the zombies created by William by implanting his split shadow into the corpses of those strong men would be so powerful. Oh, I'm completely different from when Moria implanted my shadow. Brooke sighed with emotion. It's not on the same level at all. He was once taken away from the shadow by Gecko Moria. And what a coincidence, his shadow is the corpse C implanted in the swordsman Ryoma. If the zombie general and swordsman Ryoma created by Moria had been so powerful, he would have been even more desperate. However, it can also be seen from this. There is a huge gap between that guy Moria and this Lord William. Lord William, let me fight with him. Looking at the two figures fighting on the sea, the man's eyes were burning. He was full of fighting spirit, baring his teeth and eager to try. If you want to learn from each other, there are plenty of opportunities. William shrugged and said nonchalantly, but not now, the location is not suitable, and I can't let you destroy this place. But, before that, I can make you stronger. As he said that, he walked forward with a smile. There are also Robin, Perona, Fanoka and others, who are looking at each other in surprise. Pulling up the huge shadow of Demon Oz. Brush, black shadows surged. A pair of huge scissors condensed out. Cut directly. Crack. The huge shadow did not struggle. It is constantly compressing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a shadow the size of a fist. It's a bit incredible. Eat it. He threw it high into the air and threw it towards Demon Oz. A flash of red light flashed in William's eyes, and he activated the ability of the shadow fruit. Oz's whole body was shaking uncontrollably. On the huge chest, there was a faint black shadow struggling, as if it was about to rush out. He opened his huge mouth and swallowed the inconspicuous, begging roar, finally reached. The next day. The sun is shining brightly at noon. The terrifying ship finally arrived at its destination, Boklo Island. With Robin, an all-powerful archaeologist, William and others found the treasure location marked on the treasure map without much effort. This is it. Oh ho ho ho, it's another big harvest. Afternoon. In a hidden cave, a dazzling array of gold jewelry is piled up there like a hill. If spread, it would be enough to drive people crazy. However, for William and others, they were not so excited. Because, the huge harvest in Sky Island alone far exceeds the treasures here by more than 100 times. Most of these gold vessels and jewelry are hollow. It looks like a lot there, but in fact it's not even as good as a single pillar of the Golden Bell Tower. What? He's the legendary big pirate. Perona curled her lips. That guy Silver Axe only has this little treasure. Foo hiss, foo foo, foo ow, your horizons are so high. Haguba smiled strangely and said, honestly, the total gold here is at least 2 to 3 billion. Oh ho ho ho, this already exceeds most of the treasures in this sea. Brooke also laughed there. The Lumba pirates had adventures in the Grand Line before, and it was not like they had never encountered treasures before. But the value is not high, less than 100 million Baileys. In comparison, these treasures are enough to make countless pirates jealous. Probably you are the only ones, William, who don't take these treasures seriously. A beautiful figure with a delicate appearance and a hot body exclaimed there. The voice was clearly Robin's. At this moment, her image has changed drastically, and she is wearing a pink dress. Wearing Hogba Gu spent a lot of effort and relied on superb skills to create a simulated human skin mask. And he also dyed his hair blonde specially so that he could not be easily recognized. Looking at these gold jewelry, Robin couldn't help but sigh with emotion. If I hadn't been on the Ship of Terror, I would have seen the huge Golden Bell Tower with my own eyes, as well as the treasure house full of gold jewelry. She couldn't believe that William had collected so many treasures quietly. According to her estimate, not counting the outrageous Golden Bell Tower, the other treasures in the treasury alone are probably worth no less than hundreds of billions of belly. If word spreads, I am afraid that the big pirates in New World will be unable to sit still and want to rob it. Maybe even the world government will take over. In contrast, I am more curious about the things inside. William took out 10 treasures from the treasures. His appearance has also changed greatly, and he is completely different from the past. With the return of his life, he shrunk his body to just over 2 meters, and transformed into the vice-captain of the Hell Pirates, the Gale Swordsman Yasuo. This is. Robin and others' eyes lit up. They were all a little surprised. If I guessed correctly, it should be devil fruit. Weighed it up. William opened the treasure box directly. Sure enough, there was a pomegranate-shaped devil fruit with strange patterns inside. Moreover, there is a label attached. Dragon fruit, ancient species, velociraptor form. It's actually a rare ancient species of zone. Robin was surprised. Hee hee, even if it is an ancient species, it is just a slightly stronger zone. Perona obviously likes to argue with Robin. Relatively speaking, it's pretty good. William was quite satisfied. It is impossible to expect to find a devil fruit randomly, they are all rare logia or fantasy beast species. Move these treasures back. There he gave orders to the zombie army. At the end of the night, it wasn't just Oz the devil. William spent a lot of effort and finally transformed the zombie army on the terrifying ship. It can be said that the combat power of the current zombie army has directly risen to a higher level. Even zombie generals like Wong Lun, John, and Silver Axe. The combat effectiveness has been improved to a higher level. Not only can he use the moves he used in life, but even Hockey can use them. Although it is far from being comparable to those in life, it is enough to easily defeat them before they have been strengthened. Yes, Sir William. A zombie soldier prepared the treasure box in the blink of an eye and began to carry the treasure. Hey, it's time to meet the little mouse hiding in the dark. William chuckled. On the hand, black lines surged on the tips of the 5 fingers. There were several frightened figures in the far corner, as if they were out of control. Walked towards them. William, who are they? Robin was surprised. Yo ho ho ho, it looks a bit like an ordinary person who encountered a shipwreck and ended up here. Brooke laughed. Wappa, Perona, Hogba Gu and others are also a little curious. They thought there was no one on the island. No, they have been secretly observing us for a long time, and although they pretend to look like ordinary people, they shouldn't be. Fanoka said calmly. As a sniper, although he has not yet awakened observation Hockey, his extremely keen vision has already discovered these people hiding in the dark and peeping. William was also specially reminded. But this adult had discovered it immediately. People from the secret cipher pull CP5 under the world government. Looking at several figures from a distance, William spoke calmly. At a glance, he recognized the leader, a middle-aged man in his 40s, who was an elite agent of CP5. Because he spent several years in CP5 before officially joining CP9. When performing some confidential tasks, I have partnered with many experienced and veteran agents. Therefore, I quickly recognized the unremarkable but somewhat familiar face. CP5, agent of the world government. What are they doing here? Are you going to investigate us? Hear William say this. For a moment, Robin, Wappa, Perona, Fanoka and others were all a little surprised. As one of the 7 warlords of the sea, Gecko Moria's every move inevitably attracts the attention of the outside world. William shrugged and said nonchalantly, and our purpose this time is obvious, and the route is easy to guess. They are probably here to investigate the purpose of Gecko Moria arriving at Backlow Island with such a big fanfare. A stroke of the right hand. The sharp shadow line flashed across like lightning. Ah! Several figures screamed and were cut in half. Fell in a pool of blood. Only the leader was left, dressed in tatters and dressed like a man in distress, looking somewhat embarrassed. His face turned pale and he was a little frightened. Hee hee, will you leave one alive for torture? Looking at the only survivor left, Perona was floating in the air. No, it's for you. Manipulating the shadow line and controlling the frightened figure, William said calmly, this guy has good strength. Although he is a bit old, he has already mastered 4 of the 6 moves. His shadow should be enough for you for the time being. Really, that would be great. Oh ho ho ho, what a big harvest. Little ones, let's head towards Twin Capes. Not long after. Wait until the treasure transfer is completed. Following William's order. The ship of terror sets sail again. Head towards the twin points at the entrance of the Grand Line. Brooke, who had only a handful of bones left, was even more excited, with tears in his eyes, Thank you very much, Lord William. Laboon, I'm coming. Woohoo. On the training ground. A shadow was cut out. The unconscious CP5 agent was directly locked into the dungeon. Would you like to experience it? William chuckled and stuffed the shadow into Wappa's body. Gee, Wappa growled. His fists were clenched tightly, veins popping out. His eyes became sharp. How does it feel? William asked with a smile. Awesome, Wappa responded with grinning teeth. Next moment. Shaving. He stepped hard. The whole person turned into an afterimage and disappeared in place. Appeared in midair. Moonwalk. Accompanied by puffs of smoke. His feet could not help but touch the air, and his whole life was stuck in the air. Tempest kick. Immediately afterwards, his right foot was like lightning and he kicked out violently. Quote. A crescent-shaped slash shot through the air. It hit the training field ahead, leaving a deep and shallow slash. Seeing Wappa using the 6 moves easily, Perona's eyes widened. Is it so powerful? Hiss, 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 the effect is remarkable. Hogba Gu was filled with excitement. He knew very well that his talent was limited, and he didn't know how long it would take if he wanted to practice step by step and master all 6 movements by himself. But with Sir William as a plug-in, I believe that this time can definitely be saved greatly. Not only him, but Brooke, Van Oka and others were all eager to try and looking forward to it. If there was a chance to become stronger quickly, who wouldn't want to? This is only temporary. William shook his head and said directly, it depends on him how much he can understand after the shadow escapes. Of course, such a calendar has limited effect. But at least it allows them to practice with twice the result with half the effort. Tisk, tisk, only William can think of this method. At this time, after landing steadily, Wappa rushed out again. I came to the wooden golem that I often hit during training. Finger pistol. The index finger of his right hand was electric. It penetrated like a bullet. Quote. The wooden golem pile was easily penetrated like tofu. Above, a dark finger hole appeared. Brooke, iron body. Wappa turned around, said towards Brooke. He took a direct step forward and clenched his fists. The tiger's eyes flashed, the blood in his body accelerated, and his muscles tensed. In an instant, the whole person was as hard as steel. Yo ho ho ho, let me give it a try. Brooke rushed over. The sword was unsheathed like lightning and stabbed violently. Of course, he deliberately collected the calendar. After all, Wappa was just borrowing the power of shadow. It hasn't been tempered yet, so I don't know how strong it is. Kang. The sound of gold and iron clashing came out, and the extremely sharp sword was unable to penetrate his skin. It's hard to believe. Oh, iron body. William was slightly surprised. Although the CP5 agent is indeed stronger than when he partnered with him a few years ago. But he didn't care at first, and didn't expect that he had mastered 5 physical skills. It seems that the guy has made some progress in the past few years and has mastered 5 of the 6 physical skills. That is to say, the Japanese Communist Party has mastered 5 physical skills, including shaving, moonwalk, tempest kick, fingering, iron body, etc. Perona was full of surprise. I only need iron body, just right. Robin chuckled. She also heard William mention the special effect of the shadow fruit. The shadow of the plundered strong man, after being implanted into the body of others, can enhance the strength of a person in a short period of time. Although it can't last too long, it can also allow oneself to possess the fighting instinct and corresponding experience that the other party has been trained for a long time and has been integrated into the physical memory in a short period of time. Just need to persevere in the short 2 or 3 minutes, and keep working hard to train and understand, and try again and again day after day, maybe you can gain something. In addition, there is William, the master of physical skills, who will personally guide you. She believes that it won't be long before she can perfectly master all 6 styles. 3 minutes passed in a blink of an eye. A shadow escaped directly from Wappa's body. Perona, who was quick-witted, grabbed it and said, "It's my turn. Let me try it." Wappa was a little tired. "How is it?" William asked with a smile. "It feels good, but I'm a little tired," Wappa said with a smile. "It's just a shadow after all. Even if this shadow is quite powerful, it's comparable to the shadows of 20 or 30 ordinary pirates. But it won't make him lose his fighting power directly. Moreover, relying on the experience of repeatedly trying the shaving skill-like instinct before, he couldn't wait and ran to the side. He was concentrating on training shaving there, hoping to master it as soon as possible. At this time, Perona, who was full of expectations, directly absorbed the shadow into his body. The next moment, she was shocked. Her eyes became sharp, and her stone feet kicked out. Tempest kick. Swish, a small crescent-shaped slash flew out like lightning. It cut straight through the wooden stake that Wappa had penetrated before. The cut was smooth. The shadow can only stay in the body of a living person for a limited time, and it takes more than half an hour to be implanted again. You don't have to rush to try other bodies. Quote. William stopped her, who was excited and wanted to try moonwalk directly. He said, grasp the limited time, concentrate on training one first, and use your body to remember and adapt to it. Yes, Lord William. Tempest kick, unconsciously. Time will pass quickly. The sun sets and dusk falls. Due to the load brought by the shadow implanted in the body. Wappa, Perona, Brooke, Van Oka and other people who took turns to use shadow training were already exhausted. And the powerful Robin, although she has not mastered all 6 styles, her own power has already exceeded 900, close to the first king. After several attempts, she felt that she had made great progress. In addition, with the guidance of the Master William, she has gained some understanding of the skills of the iron body, physical skill. She wanted to continue to use the shadow training, but was stopped by William. There should be a limit to everything, too much is as bad as too little. After enjoying a delicious dinner, the crowd dispersed. Robin, who had just opened the door and was about to say goodnight to William, felt that she was hugged by someone. She was not panicked, but just smiled at William, her watery eyes, a little seductive. Ah, my Lord William, are you going to take advantage of my newly joined subordinate? No, I'm not that kind of person. She grabbed the human skin mask, which was still beautiful, but not as good as my own. 1.1. Looking at Robin's beautiful face, William embraced her soft waist and said righteously, I just think Robin, you are gifted and a promising talent. I just want to discuss the 6 styles techniques with you and pass on some experience. In the past few days, this devilish, charming woman has been teasing him to death. It was not easy for her relatives to leave. How could he let her go again? Robin, whose body was a little soft, looked at someone speechlessly. He looked down at the claws that came uninvited and had already started to climb mountains and ridges. You call this discussing 6 styles? Then please teach me more. My heartbeat accelerated and my pretty face blushed. But Robin obviously didn't mean to refuse. Every day, facing this young and handsome man with incredible strength, a walking hormone that makes people unable to extricate themselves. How could she not want to indulge herself completely? You're welcome, just a competition. In William's room. Perona, who was used to being the exclusive pillow of this adult every day, rolled around. At one point, she couldn't help but quietly leave her body and watch the fight, but soon ran back to her room with a red face. Holding the kawaii, Kumasi brand pillow, she tossed and turned there, and couldn't help but clench her fists, staring with round eyes, full of unwillingness. It's been an hour. That adult William is so mean. What has Nico Robin been bullied like? How about taking another look? She convinced herself. She couldn't help but leave her body again and quietly passed through the wall. However, this time, she couldn't hold on for 10 seconds. She ran back with a red face again. That woman is really shameless. Holding the pillow, holding her hot face, thinking back to the visually impactful scene, she couldn't help blushing, and muttered, the ability of the flower fruit can actually be used like that. She felt that her eyes were opened and she learned a lot of knowledge. It turns out that the devil fruit ability can be used in this way. She wasted her time. It's over, I'm not clean anymore, woo. Perona wanted to cry but had no tears. When she thought of the ability of the flower fruit, she couldn't help but think of the scene she just saw. It's been 2 hours. Isn't it over yet? Her eyes were dull. She was counting sheep there. Without the familiar and warm embrace of Lord William, she always felt that she couldn't sleep. I don't know how long it took. Finally, she couldn't stand the sleepiness that came over her, and fell into a deep sleep. OSOFT. Quote. Grand, the climate of line changes at any time. I don't know when. The basin-sized, silvery white moon has been covered by dark clouds. Outside, a strong wind began to blow and heavy rain began to fall. It lasted until the next morning. The gloomy sky cleared up again. A fiery red sun rose slowly from the sea level. It was so gorgeous that it was fascinating. Well, you are such a beast. In front of the huge French window. Early in the morning, William pulled him up for morning exercises and guided him to practice. With good physical fitness, Robin barely recovered. Looking at the beautiful sunrise. Blushing, he turned his head back with a scolding. What are you talking about? Holding that tenderness. Admiring the beautiful scenery on the sea with Robin, William smiled and said, Since I was a child, my teacher told me that life lies in exercise and a day's plan lies in the morning. Is your teacher teaching you this? Robin snorted and rolled his eyes. Don't you like it? William asked with a smile. Robin's face was rosy. She had to admit that it was quite comfortable. William, the instructor, was very patient and gave her a good experience. Although she was scolded and cried by the other party for not learning well during the short special training, she still gritted her teeth and refused to give up. She even fainted because she was too devoted to the practice. But she finally gained a lot and learned a lot. The moment of harvesting the rich results, the taste was indescribable. She will never forget it in her life. That's right. William chuckled and said, I am guiding you to practice, and I am the one who is really working hard. Well, it's almost done. Change the equipment to train. With a swish, the black shadow surged, condensed into a railing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lying there, Robin, who was picked up, looked at William speechlessly. Robin, next is pull-ups, see how long you can hold on. William said with a smile. I will try hard, Mr. William. The sun was high in the sky. William finished his morning exercise. He ordered the maid on standby to deliver breakfast to the room. After enjoying the rich breakfast, he walked out of the castle alone and refreshed. He came to the training ground. Lord William, Wappa, Brooke, Van Oka and others who had been training there early greeted him. HMPH. Lord William. Perona, who had a pair of dark circles under her eyes, puffed her cheeks as she looked at William, who was full of energy. Who bullied you, little girl? Seeing this, William's eyes were full of smiles. He touched Perona's little head and spoke with a smile. This girl relied on the power of the ghost fruit to run through the wall to Robin's room to peek. How could he not notice it? You have fallen. Perona turned her head and snorted. But thinking back to the scenes she, accidentally, saw last night and early this morning, her pretty face couldn't help but blush. At the same time, she felt a little unfair to her father in her heart. Obviously she came first, and it was the exclusive pillow chosen by Lord William. Why did that woman get it first? Don't think too much. Focus on training. He gave Perona a slap and scolded her unhappily. William ignored the jealous girl. He gave some pointers to Wappa, Brooke, Van Oka and others. He put on a pair of seastone handcuffs, started warming up, and started training. Although the gentle countryside is good, it also requires strong strength to ensure that it can last for a long time. He is still very clear about this. The basic ability of the shadow fruit has been developed almost completely. Holding a heavy dumbbell, he was doing squats. William's eyes flickered, and his thoughts were flying, and it can also easily simulate the abilities of string fruit and rubber fruit, and develop a series of moves. The next development direction can only be in other directions. The ghost shadow core in my memory is one direction. You can try to use the ability of the shadow fruit to further transform the plundered shadows, so that it can be visualized like a shadow mage, without a body, and still exist independently. Also, try to reverse the relationship between the shadow and the body, by causing damage to the target shadow, thereby affecting the target itself. For a while, ideas in my mind kept pouring out. Some bolder, wild ideas. For example, let your own shadow and yourself be able to freely shuttle in the shadows in every corner of the world. But he estimated that it would be possible only when the ability of the fruit is awakened. Ah, that's, hiss, a ship as big as an island. Gulu, this is too big. No, it's a ship of terror. They are the hell pirates led by the 7 warlords of the sea gecko Moria. Why is such a big pirate here? 2 days later. Whiskey Mountains. looking at the approaching ship of terror. A large number of bounty hunters gathered here and fled in terror. To this day, the ship of terror really represents terror in the eyes of pirates and bounty hunters. Because according to reports in recent days, basically no ship that encounters a terrifying ship can escape. Lord William, do you want to catch them? Hogba Gu asked with a smile. Oh, leave them to you. They're all unworthy guys. There's no need for that. The dungeon is almost full. Just leave some alive and serve as experimental subjects for me. On the bow of the ship of terror, William, dressed as the Gale swordsman, crossed his arms. Looking at the fleeing figures on the Whiskey Mountains, he said calmly, the zombie army will not participate for the time being. Except for Oka, who is a sniper, others are not allowed to use fruit abilities and can only use physical skills or swordsmanship. Although the current strength of the zombie army is already very impressive. But we must always leave some opportunities to exercise the cadres under our command. He had high hopes for the Zandian warrior Vappa, who was known as the War Ghost, not to mention Brooke, Van Oka, Perona and others, whose potential was not too big. At the very least, give them time to grow up. It is still possible to be a cadre with a bounty of hundreds of millions of belly. As for Robin, although his character doesn't like fighting, his potential can actually be said to be second only to Wappa. As long as you train well, the upper limit in the future is still very high. Under his guidance, he continued to practice taijutsu and hockey, and further developed flower fruits abilities. Although she is not expected to compete head-on with a strong player like the Admiral of Headquarters. But the future is comparable to the three disasters of Beasts Pirates and the generals of Big Mom Pirates. Still no problem. Yes. For a while, Wappa, Perona, Van Oka et al. Everyone's eyes were burning, a little eager to try. It's just what I want. Robin, wearing a human skin mask, also smiled. I can't wait to fully verify my skills through actual combat. In the past few years, relying on her considerable talents, and based on the 6-style manual given to her by William and the relevant training experience, she has been constantly exploring and training on her own. She was already on the verge of reaching the iron body threshold. After several days of training, he continued to use the shadow of the CP5 strongman who had most of the 6 physical skills of the Grandmaster to assist him in his practice. Especially, William, a master of physical arts, was there to give guidance. Some of the problems in cultivation were easily solved, and I quickly understood the secret of iron body. It was a matter of course, and I initially mastered the iron body skill. At this point, this son of the devil has finally mastered all 6 physical skills perfectly. It's time to start hockey's training. If a trained Marine soldier has a power value of 10, then a strong man with a power value of more than 500 can be considered a Superman. Normally, as long as an average strong person masters all 6 movements, he can basically be regarded as a Superman. The power value will be at least 500. According to William's verification using the 6-style game and hand combination specially used to detect the target's power value. Even without the bonus of fruit ability, Robin's power has currently exceeded 1000, which is much stronger than Khalifa, Bluno and other CP9 members. It's not that Khalifa, Bluno, and Fukuro didn't work hard enough. This is obviously a talent gap. Just like William, as early as 11 years old. Although he did not master all 6 styles, his Dao power had broken through to more than 1000 E. He was able to easily defeat those who had already mastered the 6 styles at that time, but whose Dao power was far inferior to that of Bluno, Fukuro, Kumadori and others a few years later. EJ, let's see who kills more people. Yo-ho-ho-ho, I won't give up easily. Soon, as the terrifying ship approached the shore, Wappa, Perona, Brooke, Van Oka and others, who had been impatient for a long time, rushed out like wolves. Killed the fleeing bounty hunters. Has Moria targeted us? Chi Kesho, fight them. The Whiskey Mountains, which were originally very peaceful, suddenly became bloody and chaotic, with swords clashing, gunfire, and curses. The sniper Van Oka is good at shooting from behind, and he never misses. He also has the ability of the Paramesha transparent fruit, which is natural. Robin, Wappa, and Brooke performed the best. Although Wappa only got the Logia Thunder fruit not long ago and has not used the fruit ability. However, as a warrior of Sky Island Shandia, he has been fighting with the Angel Island God Guard since he was a child, and has experienced cruel training. His own combat effectiveness is very good, even without Sky Island's unique, Sky Battle, advantage. But he has a pretty good talent, under William's guidance these days. With his own indomitable will, he practices hard day after day without giving up his life, and his strength has improved by leaps and bounds, and his physical skills have been greatly improved. Even with the help of the shadow of the CP5 strong man. He has been receiving strict training since he was a child, and after being strengthened by the Thunder Fruit, his physique is not weak. He has benefited a lot in the past few days and has mastered the plus shave in the 6 styles. Although he has not mastered all 6 styles, even if he does not use the fruit ability, his current Dowley value is at least more than 500, which can barely be regarded as a Superman. For these bounty hunters with mediocre strength, he can easily crush them. And Brook is needless to say. He is only a handful of bones left. Now after the enhancement of the Munch Munch fruit ability, he can be said to be invulnerable to swords and guns. Under William's guidance, his swordsmanship has also reached a higher level. In terms of strength alone, he is not much weaker than Robin. Well, Perona did a good job, sitting on the bow of the Terror ship. William, who was watching the battle there, took in everyone's performance. Nodding slightly, he was quite satisfied. Hogubagu didn't disappoint us too much. Even Hogubagu, who was the weakest, after several months of continuous training, he has laid a solid foundation. In the past few days, with the help of the CP5 agent Shadow, a training cheat, although he was limited by his own talent, he had not yet mastered any of the 6. The overall strength has also improved slightly. A pair of scalpels flashed coldly, unbelievably sharp. Weird and dangerous, making it hard to guard against. The performance is remarkable. Next, we can add some ingredients to them. Watching the battle on the island, William touched his chin and smiled. Let Wang Lun and other zombie generals practice with them. Although risking everything and risking life and death is important. But letting those zombie generals as their usual sparring partners is obviously a good choice. I believe it will help them grow up quickly. Lord William. These people are all still alive, about 200 of them. Less than 2 hours, the fierce battle came to an end. Robin, Wappa, Perona, Hogba Gu and others returned. Apart from being a little embarrassed, they didn't suffer much damage, just some superficial injuries. Zombie soldiers, led by zombie generals such as Wang Lun, John, and Silver Axe, climbed onto the Whiskey Mountains one after another to check for survivors. Not long after, there are some bounty hunters who are still alive and have no missing arms or legs. They were all tied up and brought to the terrifying ship. Phone bugs on me or something. All were found. Da. William nodded. He came to a bounty hunter who had been found pretending to be dead. He was frightened and trying to struggle. Oh, dark shadows surged on his hands. A sharp shadow spear condensed out at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shadow kill. Kai, you're welcome. He stabbed hard at the bounty hunter's shadow. I saw his shadow, as if he was in great pain, struggling fiercely there. Ah, followed, in the unbelievable eyes of Robin, Wappa, Perona, Brook and others. The bounty hunter screamed and struggled. His stomach was disemboweled and blood flowed. It didn't take long for him to stop struggling. It has lost its breath of life. It's scary. It actually directly hurts the shadow and affects the target's body. Robin gasped. Such an ability is too weird. It's simply hard to guard against. Is this possible? Oh ho ho ho, you are indeed Lord William. Wappa, Brook, Van Oka and others couldn't help but be shocked. If you don't know what this adult is capable of, generally speaking, who would care if the shadow is attacked? This is incredible and beyond their imagination. It's just a matter of further in-depth development based on the Shadow Revolution. It's not too difficult. William shrugged. He has been developing and trying this ability unremittingly. It doesn't just start now. Then, at his signal, the body was carried away and thrown into the sea. Another bounty hunter who was tied up was carried over. William's eyes were cold, under the watchful eyes of Robin, Wappa, Brook and others. The extremely sharp shadow spear swung suddenly and cut off the limbs of the bounty hunter's shadow. I saw the shadow with its limbs cut off, as if it had self-awareness and was struggling there. But the next moment, Quote. A scream. The bounty hunter's limbs were separated. The cut was smooth, as if it had been cut directly by some finicky sharp blade. Drenched with blood. Immediately afterwards, William, whose expression remained unchanged, waved his spear. Quote. Shadow's head was cut off directly, struggling violently. The next moment, on the bounty hunter's neck, it was as if it had been torn and cut open by some sharp blade. A bloody human head fell to the ground. It makes people feel chilly. Gulu. This bloody and weird scene. The sight of Wappa, Perona, Brooke and others felt their scalps go numb. It seems that the effect is not bad. William chuckled. Quite satisfied with this ability. Hiss, isn't this invincible? Perona was dumbfounded. That's not to say, for those truly powerful people with powerful hockey, it may not be that easy to directly kill their shadows. William shook his head. How can it be so easy to become invincible? Such a trivial means alone is not enough. However, it should be possible to directly injure them and bleed these strong men with such an unpreventable ability. You guys take a rest first, I'm going to make other attempts. William said something. Then he ignored Robin, Wappa, Perona and others. He went straight to the captives who were in small groups, a little frightened and full of despair. Crack. The shadow of a prisoner. He cut it off directly. Plop. The prisoner fainted directly. The shadow was struggling in William's hand. I will give you a new life, forget the past, and be loyal to me. You will not need a body or a carrier to exist in an independent form. A flash of red light flashed in William's eyes. Black shadows surged, constantly pouring into the shadow he held in his hand. It suddenly expanded and turned into the same human form. This is. Looking at this scene from a distance, Wappa was full of surprise. Do you want to turn ordinary shadows into existences like Shadow Mage? Robin was full of curiosity and quickly guessed William's purpose. Is this okay? Perona's eyes widened. Oh ho ho ho, as long as it is what Sir William wants to do, it is really possible to achieve it, it may take some effort at most. Brooke has nothing to say about this Sir's talent. At the same time, I was looking forward to arriving at Twin Capes next, but also a little worried and nervous. He once heard Robin mention that he did encounter a huge whale when he first entered the Grand Line. Brooke is sure that it is Laboon. But now he only has a handful of bones left. The only thing that remains unchanged is the iconic explosive by Laboon. Do you really still recognize him? Quote. At this time, an incredible scene happened. I saw that the shadow that expanded and became as substantial as the Shadow Mage did not disappear directly. Instead, he stood in front of William and knelt there on one knee. Oba! But suddenly, it screamed. The black shadows all over his body surged like silk and continued to spread out. Swipe. A shadow flew back to its owner. Failed. William raised his eyebrows, not too disappointed. Stayed for about 30 seconds. He touched his chin and pondered there. After being able to maintain it for so long, it began to disintegrate and dissipate. This means that there is indeed hope for success. However, what is the difference between the Independents and the Shadow Mages? He looked with burning eyes at these frightened, real bodies, with numb scalps. William once again drew a shadow. Don't hesitate to cut it off. Come again. On the Ship of Terror. A scream came from William's exclusive training ground. A human-shaped black shadow was struggling there, and a large number of black shadows were like smoke, constantly disintegrating and dispersing. Failed again. Looking at the shadows flying out of the ghost soldiers, that immediately disintegrated. William, with his sharp eyes and quick hands, caught him easily. Do not let it return to its owner. It looks like it's still a little bit worse. Robin, who had just finished training and was sweating profusely, came over. With his jewel-like eyes, he looked at William's handsome face and said with a smile, however, it has been able to exist independently for 3 minutes, which shows that the effect is remarkable. It shouldn't take long for William to succeed. Quote. William shrugged noncommittally. Lord William, we have arrived at Twin Capes. A zombie navigator ran over and reported there. In fact, don't use it as a reminder. William and Robin, as well as Wappa, Perona, Brooke and others, have all seen the majestic and steep red line. There is also a huge, turbulent river that seems to fall from the sky. And on the cliff on the side, A towering lighthouse, incomparable. In the distance, you can still see a parasol standing beside the coast. A figure wearing a floral shirt was lying leisurely on a beach chair. He covered his head with a newspaper and seemed to be asleep. 45 years later, I finally came back here. Brooke burst into tears. The whole person was full of excitement, shouting, "Laboon!" For a while, the figure on the shore was awakened. As a lighthouse keeper, Crocus looked at the island ship coming slowly and was a little shocked, then followed the ship. But why was someone calling Laboon just now? With surprise, Crocus scratched his head and stood up, looking at the terrifying ship in front of him. Moreover, the voice is a bit familiar. Could it be that the person is old and hallucinating? At this time, Brooke jumped into the sea. With his light body, he ran wildly on the sea surface, splashing a large amount of water. "Yo ho ho ho, are you Mr. Crocus?" he shouted towards Crocus, full of surprise. Is this guy a little too excited? On the ship of terror. Perona, who was a little disapproving, couldn't help but complain. After all, it is a wish that has been made for decades, and the entrustment given by my companion before his death. It will come true. William walked over, folded his arms and said calmly, "Everyone will inevitably be a little excited." Wappa nodded. He felt the same way about this. Just like when William directly returned the Island of Gods, Apayado, to the Sandia clan, and asked him to ring the golden bell to fulfill the agreement between the ancestors, the great warrior Calgara, and Noland. Were they not like this at that time? Skeleton, you guy. On Twin Point, watching the skeletons rushing towards the sea. Crocus was startled at first, then stunned. Thinking of something, his eyes suddenly widened. Could it be? "I'm Brooke, Mr. Crocus. Soon we came to the coast." Brooke waved to Crocus and yelled, "Don't you recognize me?" "What?" Crocus froze. He cried out and looked at Brooke in disbelief. "How did you become like this?" "It's a long story. We failed. The Lombard pirates encountered a powerful enemy and were completely wiped out." Brooke sighed and said with a wry smile, "Because I am a user with the ability of the underworld fruit, I was able to come back from the dead. However, I was trapped in the Devil's Protagonist Sea for dozens of kilometers. Thanks to that, Lord Yasuo, I was able to get what I wanted, leave that sea area and return to Twin Capes. So that's what it is." Crocus shook his head and sighed a little. "No wonder I went to sea with the Roger pirates and searched everywhere for information about you, but I couldn't find it." This was actually within his expectation. I have asked pirates, business travelers, and adventurers who broke into the Grand Line countless times to inquire about the Lombard pirates, but they have not found their whereabouts. Confirmed they did not return directly to West Blue. Many years ago, he followed the Roger pirates and searched for the Grand Line. But there has been no news about the Lumba pirates. He had already guessed that something had probably happened to the Lumba pirates. But Laboon, the whale, is more stubborn. Just don't want to believe it. I just don't know if Laboon can still recognize you." Seeing Brooke's appearance, Crocus said helplessly. He really didn't expect that Brooke could be resurrected in such a posture. Devil fruit, these secret treasures of the sea are indeed the most magical things in the world. Ang, ang. At this time, on the sea, waves surged. A huge island whale emerged from the bottom of the sea. But its head was covered with shocking and ugly scars that made people's scalp numb. There it opened its mouth wide and let out a deafening roar. "Laboon," Brooke cried with tears streaming down his face. The skull was also opened directly. A sound shell was taken out. "I'm Brooke, I'm back, don't you recognize me?" He was full of excitement and sobbed. "I'm very sorry to keep you waiting for so long. I will complete the agreement with you on behalf of everyone. Ang, ang, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. Send Binks's wine to you, like the sea breeze, ride the wind and waves." As Brooke pressed the play button on the album. After decades, the chorus of the Lumba pirates echoed in this sea area again. Ang, ang, Laboon's cry can't help but echo. But inexplicably, people can feel it as both happy and sad. Obviously, it really recognized Brooke, and it didn't fail to recognize him just because he turned into a skeleton. "Laboon, do you recognize me?" Brooke yelled. Ang, ang. The sea surges. Laboon was there to respond. The huge whale eyes seemed to shed tears. William, Robin, Wappa and others who stayed on the terrifying ship and watched this scene from a distance without disturbing them couldn't help but feel a little incomprehensible. Woo, I'm so happy, I thought you couldn't recognize me. The whole person fell to his knees. Brooke cried bitterly there, thank you very much. I can't thank you enough. I'm sorry that you have been waiting so hard for us to come back, but we failed to fulfill our agreement. Ang, yo ho ho ho, yo ho ho ho. Binks's wine, delivered to you. 3 days passed by in a hurry. The emotions of Brooke and Laboon finally stabilized. William also generously invited Crocus to board the ship, held a banquet, and entertained him warmly. Of course, if it weren't for Brooke's relationship, the way he entertains the other party is not necessarily a banquet. Maybe it was a dark sell. After Dr. Hogba Gu learned that Crocus turned out to be the ship's doctor of the Roger Pirates, he was even more excited and couldn't wait to talk to him about medical skills. Due to the warm hospitality received by William and others, and his relationship with Brooke, Crocus was quite generous. He gave the medical notes that he had sorted out and no longer needed to do. Hogba Gu. Let this guy be ecstatic and immersed in research all day long. Quote. Mr. Crocus, 390, goodbye. Have a nice trip, everyone. Ang, this day. Farewell by Crocus and the whale Laboon. The ship of terror slowly sailed away from the Twin Capes and headed towards the depths of the sea. Hee hee, Brooke, you actually left us so simply. Perona was floating in the air, looking back and forth at Brooke. I just felt a little unbelievable. I thought you would cry and beg Sir William to let you get off the ship and stay at Twin Capes. Yo ho ho ho, is that right? Listening to the faint, high-pitched cry. Staring at the whale Laboon's gradually shrinking figure, which was almost invisible, Brooke looked at Perona in midair, and said helplessly, so, in your mind, Miss Perona, I am just such a person. That's really disappointing. People are sad. In my mind, I couldn't help but think back to yesterday's conversation with Nanluokas. Brooke, do you really want to go on this adventure? I'm very sorry. I once promised that as long as Sir William can take me out of the Devil's Triangle and help me fulfill my wish, I will work for him. What about Laboon? I have made an agreement with it to come back every once in a while. In fact, it has been following you, Mr. Crocus, for decades, and it can be said that its relationship is much deeper than mine. Now that my wish is over, letting it stay with you is the best choice. I believe it won't come back again. Mr. Crocus, what do you think? I really can't refuse. I've been with this guy for too long, and I really can't bear to let him go. Then, Laboon, I'll leave it to you. Do not worry. Oh, I can't be someone who breaks my word. Lord William is my benefactor, and I am willing to serve him. After a while, my thoughts returned. Brooke smiled there and said, besides, I also want to witness how high Lord William can lead the Hell Pirates in the future. Nothing to do with ambition. He is also a person who is unwilling to be lonely. Otherwise, he would not have given up his position as the leader of a Kingdom's Guard team and went on an adventure with the Lombard pirates. Hee hee, you know what I mean. Perona hummed. He raised his chin proudly. After a few months, I have been completely impressed by William's personality charm, and I have forgotten the slightest thought of revenge against my adoptive father, Gecko Moria. She has completely become the young and handsome, powerful and potential little fan of Lord William, but she will never allow anyone to betray this lord. After boarding this terrifying ship, if you want to get off halfway, you can only get off sideways. Perona, don't sound like I'm a tyrant. As long as your strength increases, I won't restrict your freedom too much. William, who was sitting aside, knocked Perona's head angrily and said with a smile, as long as it doesn't delay the business, you can go wherever you want and do whatever you want. Come these days. He forced Perona and the others to practice. Mainly because these guys are too weak at this stage. I really never thought about having them on standby at all times. When they have enough strength, even if they want to travel all over the world, he will not have any objection. After all, as long as they are not preparing to launch large-scale operations. Under normal circumstances, it is enough to have a zombie army on standby. William, are we going to East Blue now? Robin asked with a smile. She originally wanted to ask Crocus about the historical truth about the blank 100 years. But then I thought about it and gave up. Some answers need to be found by yourself, and the group is more meaningful. She believed that sooner or later William would be able to lead her to the legendary island and reveal the truth of everything. Well, let's first cross the calm belt and go to East Blue to find some potential seeds, William said with a smile. Even though it is very clear that it won't be long before the Red Hair Pirates led by Shanks may reach the top and keep pace with big pirates such as Whitebeard, Big Mom, and Kaido of the Beasts. New World will officially form the Four Emperors pattern. But he has no intention of breaking into the New World and competing with those pirates for supremacy. We are still prepared to develop step by step in a low-key manner according to the original plan. Accumulate strength and expand strength. Lee. At this time, the flying troops responsible for patrolling high in the sky suddenly began to give warnings. A white bird wearing colorful clothes seemed to want to investigate the situation of the terrifying ship. It had already attracted attention just as it tried to get closer. Is he a bird with zone ability? Wappa, Robin, Perona and others were surprised. An interesting guest has arrived. Looking at the flying bird, Observation Hockey felt the other person's breath, and William chuckled. Several zombie soldiers riding pterosaurs raised their rifles and aimed at the bird. Without hesitation, he opened fire. The white flying bird is very fast. He nimbly dodged those bullets and was about to fly into the distance. Now that you're here, why bother leaving in a hurry? Wappa sneered. The whole person turned into lightning. Hey! His figure instantly appeared hundreds of meters away in the sky. Stopped in front of the flying bird. Are you going to capture it yourself, or am I going to take action myself? High in the air, Wappa's whole body flashed with electricity. There is a strong electric light intertwined in the palm, which makes people feel frightened. Keep your eyes on the other person. What? He was startled by the sudden appearance of his figure. Especially the exaggerated electric light really makes people's scalp numb. Wait, don't attack, I surrender. The white bird spoke human words, obviously not without knowledge. He recognized that the opponent was most likely a person with Logia ability, and that he was most likely no match, so he surrendered without any backbone. At a speed visible to the naked eye, he transformed into a human animal form. Flapping Ling-Ling, a pair of white wings kept fluttering there. Revealing a pale, tall and thin figure, he looked like a mime actor. Despondently, he followed Wappa and landed on the Ship of Terror. Oh, looking at the pale and uneasy figure, William chuckled. Lafitte, long time no see. He recognized the other person. West Blue likes to abuse violence, and the expelled security guard is the devil patrolman Raffi. Lord William, do you know him? On the Ship of Terror. Hearing William directly call the other party's name, Wappa, Brooke, Perona and others were all a little surprised. Unexpectedly, William actually knew each other. We had a chance encounter. William shrugged. A few years ago, when he was on a mission in a certain country in West Blue, he met this guy who was a security officer and was known as the Devil Patrolman. Lafitte, I have some impression. And Robin, who often pays attention to current affairs news, remembered something. He suddenly looked at the man in front of him who was dressed as a mime and looked a bit like a clown. It seems that he is a security officer who was expelled from a certain kingdom because of excessive violence, right? We've met before. Looking at William in astonishment, Lafitte was a little confused. Unexpectedly, the other party actually knew me. But he was convinced that he had no impression of the person in front of him. It seems you don't recognize it. William smiled. So, what about this? Next moment, the body suddenly made bursts of explosions. The body that was about 2 meters tall suddenly grew to about 3 meters tall. Even the face has changed. A completely different person than before. What? Looking blankly at the figure in front of him, Lafitte's pupils shrank sharply. I couldn't help but swallowed my saliva and cried out, "You are William of Hell." A few years ago, he did meet the other party. I once witnessed with my own eyes that William, who was only 13 years old, easily destroyed a pirate group at an exaggerated speed. The other party once wanted to recruit him, but he refused. Wait, isn't this Gecko Moria's ship? Scan around. A confused Lafitte. He lost his voice in some confusion. Moria. William's mouth raised. In Lafitte's astonished eyes, his shadow stood up directly. As the silky black shadow surged, it turned into a fat and bloated figure at a speed visible to the naked eye, smiling strangely at Lafitte. Hey, are you talking about me? Gulu. Could it be that? Lafitte's pupils shrank sharply. Looking at William in disbelief, he shed a trace of cold sweat. Unfortunately, just a few months ago, I killed Moria, William said with a smile. And, I also got his ability. What? Lafitte cried out. Looking at William in front of him, he felt a little frightened. The majestic 7 warlords of the sea were killed quietly like this. Moreover, even the devil fruit ability was obtained by Hell William. If this spreads out, I'm afraid the entire sea will shake. Does this mean I seem to have boarded a pirate ship? He forced himself to calm down and forced a smile. Knowing so many secrets, if he doesn't agree to join, I'm afraid there's no chance of leaving alive. Maybe that's right, it's still delivered to your door. However, my invitation to you is still valid. William looked at Lafitte, patted him on the shoulder, and asked with a smile, so, what's your answer? Lafitte. Wappa, Perona, Van Oka and others did not interrupt. Being able to be recruited personally by this lord is obviously a talent, and not just because of his ability. After all, they can completely strip each other of their abilities. I can't seem to refuse. Looking at the too young figure in front of him, Lafitte took a deep breath, smiled and bowed, and said, "It is indeed an honor for me to follow a person like you. Please give me more advice in the future, Captain William. I rejected William before because he was too young. Joining the other party now is because the other party is too young." However, recalling the sensational news about the other party in the past few months, Lafitte basically confirmed that this man's potential is limitless. At the age of 17, he already has such strength. Joining the other party's subordinates is indeed a good choice. After all, in this sea area only the strong can survive. He is self-aware and does not expect to be able to do it alone. Welcome to join. William nodded with satisfaction. He just likes to know the current affairs. Because those who are ignorant of current affairs will usually be killed directly by him. Just like Enel. This may be fate. Determined to join, Lafitte relaxed instead. Recalling the scene when he first met William, he couldn't help but feel a little inexplicable. Looking at Wappa, Robin, Van Oka and others present, he smiled and introduced himself. "Hello everyone, I am Lafitte. I used to be a security officer and a navigator. Good at swordsmanship. Please give me more advice." "Yo ho ho ho, hello, I'm Brooke, I'm a musician, and I'm also good at swordsmanship. From now on, we are all on our own. My name is Hogba Gu, and I am the ship's doctor of the Hell Pirates. Hee hee, I am Perona, a combatant of the Hell Pirates. I am Van Oka, from East Blue, a sniper of the Hell Pirates. I am Wappa, a warrior from the Sky Island Mountain Clan. Haha. I'm Nico Robin, and I'm an archaeologist." Everyone was there, introducing themselves. It was Robin's turn to take off his human skin mask and introduce himself. Lafitte couldn't help but widen his eyes and looked at the other party in astonishment. Thinking of the news in recent days, I suddenly realized something. Lord William, what about it? Staring in a daze. Suddenly stood up from the forest. Lafitte couldn't help but swallowed his saliva at that huge figure that was unattainable and intimidating. It is Majin Oz. It is a special zombie created by me using the power of the shadow fruit. It is also the king of zombies. William shrugged. Then he pointed to the zombie soldiers busy around him and gave him a brief introduction. And these are also the zombie legions that I created using the ability of the shadow fruit. Except for the most advanced zombie king, they are divided into zombie generals, zombie captains, and zombie squad captains according to their strength. Those are ordinary zombie soldiers. Zombie captain, zombie squad leader. This is the level William reclassified between zombie generals and zombie soldiers. The sources of corpses are basically selected from the zombie generals left behind by Moria. There are only 9 real zombie generals left. Others with less strength were classified as zombie captains. If we say that zombie kings such as Majin Oz and swordsman Ryoma currently have the strength of generals and 3 disasters, then zombie generals generally have a strength of more than 200 million belly and less than 500 million, and there are 9 in total. The zombie captains generally have a strength of hundreds of millions, and there are 18 of them in total. The zombie squad captains have a strength of between 30 million and 100 million Baileys, and there are 36 of them in total. As for ordinary zombie soldiers, those with a value of less than 30 million are all classified into this column. At present, the number of zombie legions is limited and has not yet been expanded on a large scale. Counting those beast troops and flying troops, the current number is about 1,500. There are about hundreds of zombie servants responsible for chores and logistics. Most of them have little combat ability and are not included in them. Moreover, zombie kings are different from ordinary zombies. As Williams split Shadow, they still have considerable room for improvement. Haha, I forgot to tell you, if you just refuse to join us, there is a high probability that you will become one of them. Putting on the human skin mask again, Robin smiled brightly and added kindly, at this level, I can only serve as a zombie squad leader. Hee hee, even though you are a zone ability user, apart from the fact that you can fly, I don't think you can beat any zombie general. Perona was floating in the air and said with pride, don't believe it, every one of those zombie generals was a famous pirate when they were alive. Hiss, do you want to compete with them? Hogba Gu asked with a smirk there. Hearing this, Lafitte took a breath of air. I felt my whole body felt cold, and cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Wiping his sweat, he said, then I really made a very right choice. Originally, he didn't believe it. And I was still a little unconvinced. I want to prove my strength. Until I recognized the once notorious Captain John. Such a great pirate who was so famous in life was actually just a zombie general. 3 days later, calm belt with no wind or waves. A large sea king, hundreds of meters long, just emerged from the sea. He was directly struck by a huge slash and his head was cut off mercilessly. Crashing, the sea water was boiling. Blood dyed the sea red. The bloody, exaggeratedly large corpse of Sea Kings lay across the sea. It's really shocking. Oz, it's up to you, pull it up. The swordsman Ryoma put away his sword and stood up, turned around and left. I still want to teach others swordsmanship and physical skills. Adhering to the principle of free labor, don't use it in vain. These days, this special zombie, who is as powerful as the demon Oz, is thrown into the training field by William to serve as a coach. Responsible for teaching body arts and swordsmanship to Wappa, Robin, Brooke, Lafitte and others. From time to time I have to act as a sparring partner. Hey, you guy, don't order me. On the side, the demon-like and huge demon Oz said unhappily. But the movements of his hands were very fast. 2 huge iron ropes with hooks were thrown out by him. Clang, it was accurate and hooked the body of the large Sea Kings. Showing quite exaggerated power. Pulled it up easily. Don't be stunned. Be quick. And those zombie soldiers were already on standby. Busy there to started handling this Sea Kings. Cut it into pieces and send it to a cold storage as a food reserve. Roar. At this moment, the strong smell of blood quickly attracted other Sea Kings. An even larger giant Sea Kings, no less than a kilometer in length, opened its huge bloody mouth and was about to bite the body of the Sea Kings. Want to seize food from the tiger's mouth? Demon Oz looked sharply. His right foot was like lightning, and he swept out, tempest kick hyphenation point land break. Whoosh, accompanied by fierce wind pressure. A huge slash shot out of the air in an instant. Directly cut this huge and ferocious Sea Kings in half. A huge bloody head rolled down. There was a big splash. Hey, today's mission is almost completed. Tisk, what a monster. On the number 1 training ground. With Wappa, Robin, Brooke and others. Lafitte, who was training hard, couldn't help feeling a little inexplicable when he witnessed this scene. This is not the first time he has seen it, but every time he sees it, he is still so shocked. In the past, he still felt that he was a person. But after boarding the ship, my proud heart was quickly hit. Needless to say, the 2 great zombie kings, Majin Oz and swordsman Ryoma. But forget about those zombie generals. He never thought that he was a zone bird fruit power user, and he boasted that he was one of the top figures in West Blue. He couldn't even defeat a zombie captain. But, I feel more and more that I made the right choice. Whether it's the 6 style physical skills, the swordsman Ryoma's swordsmanship, or hockey's training methods. William is all open to these cadres. There is also a split shadow of William himself implanted. Ryoma, a swordsman who is a special kendo, can be said to be a strong master of swordsmanship and physical skills during the week, is personally taught by him. It was an eye-opener for Lafitte and he benefited a lot. Have to say, that gentleman's courage is indeed not comparable to that of ordinary people. It's true that when you doubt people, you don't use them, and when you employ people, you don't doubt them. Even though he was a newcomer who had just joined, she had no intention of setting up a defense. It seems that he is not afraid that they will learn it, but that he will not be able to learn it. Let him admire you from the bottom of his heart. Of course. Follow William's example, wearing a sea stone and lifting heavy dumbbells. Wappa, who was working hard there, flushed, gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "After all, they are monsters created by Lord William's own split shadow, and before they were reborn, they were famous and powerful men on the sea. This is also a test for us. What we have to do is to keep working hard, keep catching up, and surpass them." His eyes were full of determination. This is the goal Wappa has set for himself. You must rely on your own efforts to surpass these zombie kings as soon as possible. After all, even the zombies created by Lord William cannot surpass them. So, why does he think that he can become that adult's right-hand man in the future? You have said so, I can't give in easily. Looking blankly at Wappa, whose face was resolute, unswerving, and completely unwavering, Lafitte couldn't help but laugh. There he kept waving his staff and sword. He practiced the Shimotsuki-style swordsmanship taught to him by Ryoma the swordsman for the past 3 days. Although, it is a bit difficult to directly surpass the swordsman Ryoma, a special zombie with the strength of a great swordsman. But he can't be too far behind. Yo ho ho ho, Lafitte. Brooke came over and said with a smile, "Want to spar together?" As a swordsman who also uses a staff sword, he couldn't help but feel a little bit happy and wanted to compete with Lafitte. That Lord William walked too fast. If they don't try to keep up, sooner or later they will be eliminated. Haha, I couldn't have wished for it. Lafitte's eyes lit up and he readily agreed. In fact, he has long wanted to compete with Brooke. But because I just joined the Hell Pirates, everyone is not familiar with them yet. Sorry, it's too presumptuous. OSOFOF. The sun was shining brightly. The sea breeze blows gently. With this announcement, the terror ship passed through the calm belt and officially entered the East Blue. After practicing all morning, everyone was tired and hungry. I was finishing a delicious lunch in a restaurant that had just been built not far from the training ground. A group of people gathered there to rest and chat. "Sir William, if nothing else happens, we should have arrived at East Blue." Looking at a chart of East Blue, Lafitte took a piece of paper, wrote and drew there, and made some calculations. He said directly to William, "According to this chart, it will take 3 days to reach Logue Town." As an excellent navigator, Lafitte had just left West Blue and entered the Grand Line not long ago, although his sailing skills still need to be improved. But naturally they are not comparable to those half-baked zombie navigators on the Ship of Terror. He quickly determined the approximate location of himself and others. At this time, William just nodded and was about to say something. The flying troops patrolling the surrounding sea areas in the sky issued an early warning. A falcon flew down and landed in front of everyone. "What's the matter?" William raised his eyebrows. Robin, Wappa, Lafitte and others were all a little surprised. "Lord William, Zombie Falcon reported there. About 10 nautical miles away, a large number of strange large sea katsuyu carrying houses on their backs or crawling on the sea." Chapter 91. What? The large sea katsuyu carrying the house on its back? Are you kidding me? Hear the words. Vappa, Brooke, Perona et al. He looked at the zombie falcon in astonishment and couldn't believe it. "This is true, sir, I don't dare to lie. This zombie falcon has tearful eyes," and Kaido aggrievedly. "I think the only one that fits this situation is the warhouse of Germa 66. William, who was sitting aside, raised his eyebrows and was surprised. Did those guys come to East Blue? Germa 66. That legendary army of evil. Isn't that the evil force in the little book? Lord William, does Germa really exist? Hear William say this." Perona, Van Oka, Hogba Gu and others were all a little surprised. Looking at William in disbelief. The name of Germa 66. They have all heard of it at one time or another. But I always thought it was just a legend. It's true, Germa 66 does exist. Robin, who is well informed and often pays attention to current affairs news, said they are a well-known killer family in the underground world. They began to suppress and rule the North Blue with force a long time ago, and dominate the side with a powerful scientific combat force. Although Germa has fallen now, they are still the only world government country in the world that does not have a real territory and is qualified to participate in the World Summit. Due to having no land, Germa relies on its strong military strength to obtain necessary resources and is active around the world as a mercenary, often accepting commissions from other countries to help employers who pay large sums to hire them. He is a well-known war expert in the industry. Robin is right. William on the side nodded and added with a smile, I heard that they raised a large sea Katsuyu and transformed it into a battleship, also known as a war house. These battleships combined together are the Kingdom of Germa. So Germa is the only kingdom that has no territory but exists as a member of the world government, and the ones who rule this evil army are the Vinsmoke family. So that's it. Listen to Robin and William's introduction. Everyone present was suddenly enlightened and some were amazed. Hey, is that the rumored army of evil that makes people fearful? Stand tall. Without hesitation, William directly ordered, go at full speed, catch up with them, and block them. I was originally thinking of going to North Blue to find Germa again. Unexpectedly, they delivered it to the door themselves. For those techniques that Germa has mastered. He is very jealous. Well, Sir William, their speed is too fast, I'm afraid we can't catch up. The zombie falcon was there, cautiously reminding. It observed from a distance that although those large sea Katsuyu carried huge houses on their backs, their speed was indeed not slow. With the speed of the terrifying ship, I'm afraid it really won't be able to catch up. Yeah, William frowned. He waved his hand and said nonchalantly, forget it, I'll go there myself. This terrifying ship is good at everything, but its speed is too slow. It still needs to be further improved. However, directly grabbing the warhouse of Germa 66 is not a good choice. Not only can it form a huge castle, it can also easily climb the red line, and its speed is not slow. This beats Ship of Terror by a lot. Maybe you can consider whether to change your home next. Now, about 10 nautical miles away, war houses loaded with various naval guns were carried by the huge sea Katsuyu. They were scattered on the sea and kept moving forward. But the direction was not consistent with the terrifying ship. Father, how long will it take us to reach the West Copper Kingdom? The war house with the word 66 marked on the head, which looked like the middle part of a castle. In the gorgeous hall, a slender, beautiful and tall figure walked in with high heels. She had short pink hair and wore a white short-sleeved dress, with delicate facial features and moist red lips. On her pair of white long legs, there was a 66 logo tattooed, adding a bit of wild beauty. What was surprising was that she also had Sia counterclockwise circle eyebrows. Although the whole person was full of youthfulness. She looked to be only about 16 or 17 years old. But she was mature and capable beyond her age. Very slim, 3 temperaments moving. It's about 2 days away, don't worry. A tall, solemn figure with a metal helmet and long golden hair sat there and said calmly. He had a pointed black beard that pointed upward, a small mustache on his protruding chin, and wore an orange cape and a light gray combat uniform with the 66 logo. No one could have imagined that he was the supreme commander of the evil army of Germa 66, the king of the Germa kingdom, Vinsmoke Judge. 2 days. Reiju nodded gently. He stared into the distance with a faint gaze. Father, for some reason, the entire fleet suddenly began to gather and move closer. A boy with a red coxcomb, a cold face, and a red combat uniform, but who looked only 13 or 14 years old, hurried in. He reported to Vinsmoke Judge there. Those sea Katsuyu seemed to be out of control and began to not listen. What? Hearing this, not only Vinsmoke Judge's face changed. Even the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family, Vinsmoke Reiju, who was known as the poisonous powder, could not believe it. Without delay, Judge Vinsmoke brought his children and hurried outside. Looking at the situation on the sea, Reiju's pupils could not help shrinking. I saw that the large sea Katsuyu that were originally scattered on the sea began to move closer. If someone looked down from a high altitude, they would be shocked to find that if these Seikatsuyu were completely fitted together, the buildings on their backs could be perfectly combined into a large castle. What's going on? Judge was in doubt. I never thought that such a strange thing would happen out of the blue. In the square outside, two boys, wearing green combat uniforms and blue combat uniforms, about 13 or 14 years old, and with similar appearances, stood. They both had 66 inches shaped circle eyebrows and cold faces. But looking at the out-of-control large Seikatsuyu, at this moment, they were somewhat helpless. No matter how we give orders, they have no response and cannot return to their original formation. Vinsmoke Niji, the second son of the Vinsmoke family, said loudly. What's going on? Looking at the war houses that kept approaching from the sea, Vinsmoke Judge's eyes were gloomy. He frowned, shocked and angry. Stop moving forward temporarily and check the situation one by one. But before he finished speaking, the soldier in charge of Alert, he was already shocked and screamed. That's someone in the sky. Is it an invader? Alert, is it an intruder? You can actually fly. Are you a person with abilities? At this time, a warrior named Germa. They all raised their heads and stared in shock at the black figure flying from the distant sky and getting closer. It should be coming towards us. Looking at the increasingly clear black shadow, Reiju was a little confused, but I don't know if it is an enemy or a friend. Whoever he is, open fire and shoot him down. Vinsmoke IG, who was young, energetic and used to being arrogant, gave the order. Quote. Judge's expression changed, just about to stop it. But some German soldiers heard the order. Without hesitation, he raised his gun and took the lead in firing at the approaching figure in the air. Allah, are you so enthusiastic? Carrying dark shadow wings. William, who was wearing a black windbreaker, smiled lightly. His body was as fast as lightning and he was extremely fast, easily dodging the continuous rain of bullets and scattered rockets. Soon they flew over to the leader's war house. Sitting on that castle. Who are you, Your Excellency? Judge's eyes were gloomy and full of vigilance. I wonder what you are doing here. He speculated that it was most likely the other party's fault that those large Seikatsuyu suddenly lost control just now. Otherwise, how could it be such a coincidence? It happened that a collective problem occurred at this time. You know, those large Seikatsuyu have been transformed by him. There is no self-will at all, only absolute obedience. It was impossible to disobey their orders. From today onwards, Germa 66 will work for me, how about it? William smiled and spoke. He didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. What? Too arrogant. Are you provoking us, Germa? Get off. Hear the words. The soldiers of Germa couldn't help but stare angrily. The three brothers IG, Niji, and Yongji who were following Vinsmoke Judge were even more furious. Brush. Without hesitation, he rushed out. The combat boots under his feet spurted strong air currents and accelerated towards the roof. And Vinsmoke Judge didn't stop. He knew very well the fighting capabilities of his three sons. During the embryonic stage, it has been transformed by blood factors, and it has undergone strict training after birth. Although he is young, he is already the most powerful warrior in Germa 66 besides himself, the commander-in-chief. Especially wearing the technological battle suit he specially developed. It is definitely not comparable to ordinary strong men. Asshole. Go to hell. The guy who doesn't know how to live or die. Although he has just turned 14. But they looked cold and showed no fear. And the strength shone. Quite amazing. In the blink of an eye, he rushed in front of William and launched an attack. Mixed color burst. Electric light, fire light, air pressure. Some are dazzling, and they come with a blast. Oh, Germa's battle uniform. William's expression remained unchanged. With a playful smile, his fingers moved slightly. The next moment, IG, Niji, and Yongji rushed up. He froze right there, unable to move. What? The expressions of the three people changed drastically. But despite struggling hard, he couldn't move an inch. Each one's eyes were spitting fire, glaring fiercely at William, who was less than 1 meter away and was smiling. How can it be? IG-sama, Niji-sama, Yuji-sama. They are bound, they are the strongest warriors in Germa, ah. Is that guy an Esper? Those soldiers from Germa couldn't help but turn pale with shock. I can't believe that the other party subdued the three brothers of the Vinsmoke family so easily. That's the line. Judge and Reju's expressions changed drastically. Soon I discovered a few thin black lines faintly in the air. Don't get me wrong, I'm not discussing with you. William stood up, looked down at Vinsmoke Judge, and said calmly, I'm informing you, Vinsmoke Judge. You, the outraged judge, holding a spear in his hand, he was about to leave the country just now. But he was shocked to find that he couldn't move either. I can't move either. What's going on with that guy? Not only Judge, but also Reju next to him. They all found that their bodies were suddenly out of control. Full of disbelief. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. But the next moment, William's eyes sharpened suddenly. An unparalleled fluctuation suddenly spread. The entire fleet, which had just started to get closer and was vaguely about to form a huge castle, was all shrouded in fear by the extremely powerful conqueror's haki. Thump, thump. Those fearless Germa soldiers who were not afraid of death and were gathering continuously, fully armed and ready to fight, turned their eyes wide one after another and foamed at the mouth. Lost consciousness and fainted to the ground. A moment's work. All over the war house. Only the Vinsmoke family, who were controlled and unable to move, still maintained consciousness. Ix. Conqueror's haki. Judge and Reju both broke out in cold sweat. Looking up in shock, William disguised himself as Yasuo, the vice captain of the Hell Pirates, but did not reveal his true face. The three brothers Ig, Niji, and Yongji were full of anger and still glared at William without any fear at all. I'm sorry, I officially announce. William jumped slightly. Arriving in front of Vinsmoke Judge, he said calmly, Germa is mine. His right hand was aimed at the three Vinsmoke brothers who were unable to move on the roof, and he shook it suddenly. A large number of shadow lines poured out, directly tying them up. Thrown to the ground. Do you have a problem? Vinsmoke Judge. An indifferent look. Make Vinsmoke Judge extremely frustrated. He was full of panic, but more importantly, he was unwilling and angry, as well as unspeakable panic. You can't do this. Wait a minute, I don't know what a strong man like you wants to do. If you just want Germa's technical information, then you can just take it away. Reju on the side glanced at his father, Vinsmoke Judge, who had completely lost his sense of proportion, and secretly shook his head. She took a deep breath, looked directly at William in front of her, and said in a deep voice, but the Vinsmoke family is the core of Germa, and my father is the best scientist in Germa, and he is also the leader of Germa 66. Supreme Commander, all soldiers obey his orders unconditionally. This gentleman, having lost Germa of the Vinsmoke family, is of no use to you. I think we can cooperate. In the square of the war house. Look at this beautiful and slim eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family who remains calm and wise despite this situation. There was some appreciation in William's eyes. But it's a pity. Cooperation is impossible, because he has a safer and more effective way. Reju, Judge, who was a little panicked, full of despair and unwillingness, looked at the eldest daughter in astonishment. He never thought about it at this time. The only ones he could rely on were not his three sons, who had worked hard to transform their bloodline factors and had high hopes for them. It's this daughter that I don't pay much attention to on weekdays. What you said makes sense. William's expression remained unchanged. It seems that he is seriously considering Reju's proposal. For a moment, he spread his hands helplessly. Whether it is the blood factor-related technology mastered by your father Vinsmoke Judge, the transformation people and clones, or Germa's battle suit, they are all very good technologies. But if there are no outstanding scientists to host it, it will really not be easy to fully utilize it in a short period of time. Cooperation is indeed a good direction. Speaking of which, William sneered in his heart. A guy like Vinsmoke Judge, who has high ambitions but low ambitions, is not so peaceful. Even the world government has been tricked by Dr. Vegapunk. How could he completely trust Judge? Hearing this, Vinsmoke Judge breathed a sigh of relief. His back was already soaked with cold sweat. Looking at the mysterious strong man in front of me, I felt even more frightened. I never expected that the other party would know so much about the technology I had mastered. Obviously he came prepared. As long as you can provide sufficient funds and corresponding blood factor samples, I can mass-produce absolutely obedient clone soldiers for you. These clone soldiers only need 5 years to mature. I became aware of the person in front of me. It is definitely not something that the current Germa can resist. Vinsmoke Judge's bones are obviously not that hard. On the contrary, because he knows his trump card very well, he has been completely exposed. I could only grit my teeth and bear the pain of giving up, my heart dripping with blood. Even if you want the latest battle suit developed by Germa, that's no problem. As for bloodline factor modification, it needs to be modified from the embryonic stage. Tuan can ensure success. These are all easy to say. Compromise for Judge. William, who had already made a decision in his heart, did not have any fluctuations. He asked directly, "Can you clone the giants?" It is undeniable that Vinsmoke Judge does have excellent scientific research talents, and he really can't find a candidate who can replace the market in a short period of time. However, it does not necessarily require a living person. It's possible, but the funds and equipment needed to clone the giants are probably sky high. It's completely unnecessary, and the gain outweighs the loss. And the growth cycle is too long. The time it takes for an adult giant warrior to grow from embryo to mature and leave the factory is at least 3 times longer than that of an ordinary human being. The eyes of Judge and Reiju, father and daughter, twitched. Of course, Germa had never thought about cloning the giants. But first of all, because Germa does not have its own land, it can only place the laboratory on top of the war house, which cannot accommodate such large equipment. Secondly, there are limitations in funds and resources. Relatively speaking, cloning and producing a giant warrior requires too much money. Enough to produce thousands of elite human soldiers. Furthermore, it would take at least 10 or even 2,000 years to clone an adult giant soldier. Completely inconsistent with Germa's needs. Is that so? William nodded, noncommittal. Looking at Vinsmoke Judge, he asked directly. Then without considering the investment of funds and the training cycle, "Judge, can you clone the giants at the same time? Transform their bloodline factors and give them powerful powers?" For him, funds are not an issue. Time is not an issue. The key is whether the combat effectiveness is considerable. Because some special devil fruit can break the time limit. For example, a ripe fruit that can accelerate the ripening of a target can even instantly make a child of several years old directly skip the growth cycle of more than 10 or 20 years and become a real adult. Unfortunately, he happened to know the whereabouts of the person with ripe fruit ability. What? Vinsmoke Judge couldn't help but shrink his pupils when he heard this. Reiju on the side also looked at William in shock, a little shocked. This man's ambition is beyond imagination. Gulu, I haven't tried it yet, but in theory it's no problem. Judge swallowed, said somewhat uncertainly, "That's no problem." William smiled. The shadow lines were directly put away by him. He smiled at Judge, Reiju and others who had regained their freedom and said, "Please forget about the unpleasantness just now. I think next, we can sit down and talk about cooperation between the two parties." Judge, Reiju, are they qualified to object? After regaining their freedom, Ig, Niji, and Yongji will attack William again. Stop it. Judge stopped him quickly and yelled, "Isn't it embarrassing enough? Now he is our distinguished guest." Said. He looked at William and said with some embarrassment, "I'm sorry, I haven't asked you for your name yet." "Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself." William stretched out his right hand and said with a smile, "Let me formally meet you, my name is Obask William." What, hell William? Judge and Reiju's eyes widened. He stared at each other blankly, a little stunned. Black prison, William, of course they paid attention to it. After all, the other party has been so popular recently and has made the headlines of the World Economic News several times. But the man in front of him, who looked relatively young and handsome, was completely different from the Black Prison William himself in the reports. "Sir, you are really good at joking. Shake hands with the other party." Vinsmoke Judge forced a smile. Until now, he is unwilling to reveal his identity. The other party is too insincere. If the situation wasn't stronger than the person, he would have turned against him long ago. "I'm not kidding you again." William chuckled and shook his head. "In this case, you will recognize, right?" The next moment, all the muscles in his body were tense. The body made bursts of sounds like exploding beans. The body shape continues to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye, returning from a height of 2 to 3. The face has also undergone great changes. What? This incredible scene. The father and daughter Judge, Reiju, and the 3 Vinsmoke brothers next to them all couldn't help but widen their eyes with disbelief. Quote. Looking at the young and handsome figure in front of him. Reju's eyes lit up as he was always a beauty-conscious person. Braving the red heart, I couldn't help but feel my heart pounding, and I couldn't help but become a little bit crazy. Is it really you? Hell, William. His image suddenly changed, and William looked completely different from before. Judge couldn't help but his pupils narrowed sharply. He cried out loudly, "Please have tea, Mr. William." Jerma Castle. In the gorgeous hall, Judge and William sat across from each other. Reju poured tea for William himself, looking at his ridiculously handsome face with beautiful eyes, unable to look away. Quote. William smiled and nodded. "So handsome. You're welcome." Reju's eyes turned red. As if out of control, he became infatuated again. But he quickly came to his senses and ordered the purchase with a blushing face. "Reju, go down." Seeing this, Judge's face darkened. He waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Next, I will further discuss the cooperation with Mr. William. No one is allowed to come in and disturb me without my permission." "Yes, father." Reju nodded seriously. She is also a person transformed by blood factors. Although he still retains human emotions, he cannot disobey his father's orders. "By the way, my ship will be here soon." William reminded there. "I'll ask you to entertain my subordinates later, Miss Reju." "Okay, don't worry, Mr. William." Reju responded with a smile. But soon, after Reju exited and closed the door. "Mr. William, the proposal you just made is fine on Germa's side, but how much funding can you provide?" Judge's face was solemn. Looking at William in front of him, he went straight to the point. After all, cloning a giant soldier is not a small sum of money, not to mention having to change their bloodline. As long as he moves his hands and feet a little bit. At that time, these cloned giant warriors will only obey their own orders. Thinking secretly in his mind, Judge's attitude became more and more eager. "Funds, you don't have to worry." William smiled. You can see Judge's unconcealed expression. In my heart, I had fun. Brush. Without warning, a strange black shadow. Suddenly and silently, a figure emerged from Judge's shadow. Crack. The next moment, Judge's shadow was cut directly. The whole person's pupils suddenly dilated. He immediately lost consciousness. Fainted. "Hey." Looking down at Judge, who had his shadow taken away and fainted directly, William said with sarcasm, "I'm sorry. Cooperation also requires strength." He took the shadow sent by the shadow mage. Looking at the struggling shadow, he was directly absorbed into the body. These memories are really complicated. Selectively retrieve some memories. William ignored it and chuckled. But this guy didn't leave his life card for his children before, so it saved me a lot of trouble. Finished. His eyes flashed. A strange red light flashed in his eyes. The shadow mage who had just returned at his feet suddenly began to move at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shadow split. Quote. Without warning, a human-shaped shadow split apart from William's shadow. Their people stood up. Originally, I wanted to leave this opportunity to that guy from Moria, but it doesn't hurt to use it to make a special scientific zombie. Looking at the unconscious Judge, William laughed playfully. "Next, don't let me down. Vinsmoke Judge." In fact, as a shadow fruit user, the number of shadows he can split is limited. Every time a shadow split, William felt that he was faintly weaker. It would take some time to recover, and he could not split indefinitely. He estimated that his situation might be similar to that of Big Mom, a user with the soul fruit ability. To ensure that his own strength was not affected, there would not be too many split shadows. If it were just an ordinary zombie general, in all likelihood, the knowledge and abilities that can be inherited are limited, and they will definitely be far inferior to Vinsmoke Judge himself. But if you want to get an outstanding scientist, you still have to use his own split shadow. In my name, I will grant you new life. You will be loyal to me and never betray me. No procrastination. The split shadow was given an independent personality and a contract was made with it. William directly fed the shadow of Vinsmoke Judge to the newly split shadow. Eat it and receive all the memories of this shadow. Quote. In the blink of an eye. This shadow that had just split and been given independent consciousness was swallowed up by Tokiji's shadow. Time passes bit by bit. The shadow that is to be split has received all the memories of Vinsmoke Judge. Don't blame me, Judge, if you blame you for being too weak. William's eyes were indifferent. Use the 5 fingers of your right hand to hook them gently. Each and every shadow line that was undetectable submerged into Vinsmoke Judge's body silently, directly destroying his vitality. This is the Supreme Commander of Germa 66 who is ambitious and determined to let Germa rule North Blue again. His life was completely lost in this way. Even after the target body dies, the plundered shadow will die with it. But the shadow that has lost its vitality still carries some instinct and residual information. It is obviously enough for the shadow clone that has received all the memories of his life in advance. Hey, it's almost time to start. William's eyes. There was a flash of strange red light. Directly implant this shadow clone into the opponent's body. Resurrection. From today on, you are Vinsmoke Judge. Thump, thump. Not long. The heart that had stopped started beating again. Vinsmoke Judge suddenly opened his eyes, flashing a strange red light. The confusion gradually turned to clarity, and he saluted the head of William's mansion. Sir. In front of others, call me Mr. William, in private just call me Lord William. Yes, Lord William. Now, can you perfectly master the related technologies of those bloodline factors? William asked directly. The special zombie judge created by William's split shadow responded seriously. It may be a little rusty, but the instinct and experience are still there. Although if you want to innovate on the original basis, you still need more time to study and adapt. If you just copy the operation like a cat and a tiger, it won't be a problem. That's okay. William nodded with satisfaction. At any rate, it was a deliberately split shadow. It perfectly integrates the shadow of Vinsmoke Judge and obtains all his memories and experiences. Although it is not expected to surpass Dr. Vegapunk, the world's most talented scientist, it does so on the premise of possessing extremely high learning and innovation abilities. It's not worse than Vinsmoke Judge himself, right? Let's go. It's time to meet your children, don't keep them waiting. William chuckled. He was not worried at all whether he would be recognized or not. Because, as people transformed by blood factors, they simply cannot resist Judge's orders. Even the more sensitive Reiju noticed something. So what? A ship as big as an island. Tisk tisk, it's even bigger than our castle in Germa. Go back in time a little. The giant sea Katsuyu that were originally out of control have already formed into a huge castle. The 4 siblings Reiju, Ig, Niji, Yongji, and Germa's soldiers couldn't help but be a little shocked when they saw the huge island ship coming slowly. Through the monocular telescope, keep observing. Those beast legions and flying troops. In particular, the figure of Demon Oz is so huge that it is intimidating. It even made Reiju break into a cold sweat. Some scalp tingling. Tisk, tisk, are there such big giants in the world? Looking at the exaggeratedly large Majin Oz on the terrifying ship, Yuji asked his sister Reiju. That should be the legendary ancient giant clan. Reiju took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Father once said that there are still ancient giants in this world. Their height is larger than the average giants, but their appearance more like a humanoid monster. 500 years ago, there was a very famous ancient giant clan in North Blue. Just like our reputation as Germa 66, it was an extremely terrifying and vicious villain. It was called the Yungwo, Austrian. This guy, also known as the Demon, I heard that he likes to move away from all the countries and islands he likes. Have you checked it out? With that said, Reiju turned his head and asked the people around him. We have found out, Lord Reiju, that is the ship of terror, the ship of the 7 warlords of the sea Gecko Moria. A Germa officer in charge of intelligence was sweating profusely while flipping through relevant information, reporting there. 7 warlords of the sea. Gecko Moria. Reiju's pupils shrank sharply. What is the relationship between William of Hell and 7 warlords of the sea? No matter what their relationship is, although I don't like that guy very much, since my father has told me, let's just entertain them. Ig, who was following Reiju, said coolly. You're right, they are just a bunch of vulgar pirates. Niji said indifferently. I am the royal family of the Germa kingdom, the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family, Vinsmoke Reiju, these are my brothers. Not long after. Wait until the ship of terror is approaching. Reiju came up to him with his 3 naive brothers who had no affection for each other. Master William is discussing the cooperation between the 2 parties with my father. Let me wait here to entertain you. Welcome everyone. It seems that it has been resolved peacefully. Oh ho ho ho, what a beautiful lady. Hiss, Kahis, is this the rumored army of evil, Germa 66? Hee hee, North Blue's famous killer clan, they thought they were going to take action. The legendary war house is really an eye-opener. Wappa, Brooke, Perona, Van Oka, Hogba Gu, Lafitte and others were all looking at the kingdom of Germa there. When the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family directly said Lord William's name, they roughly guessed that the Lord should be the procession god who revealed his identity. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the other party to recognize Sir William, who has disguised himself as the Wind Sword Master Yasuo. Hello, Reiju, staring at the young, beautiful, yet mature and steady slim girl in front of her. Wearing a lifelike human skin mask and dyed blonde long hair, Robin stepped forward, stretched out his right hand, and said with a smile, I am Lord William's assistant, Issa. Issa, this is naturally the pseudonym she uses in daily life. Although the other party already knew William's identity, she habitually remained wary. There is nothing wrong with being cautious. I am Sir William's most trusted female subordinate, Perona. Holding a flower umbrella, Perona floated in the air and spoke unwillingly. Look at Perona's childish behavior. There was a smile on Robin's lips, and she couldn't help laughing. Miss Issa, Miss Perona, hello. Reiju was slightly surprised. He recovered immediately and nodded with a smile. This is not the place to talk. Please come with me. And looking at the delicate and beautiful Issa, and the young, beautiful and eccentric Perona, the three brothers Yiwo, Jing and Yongji who inherited the lustful genes of the Vinsmoke family can't help but feel jealous. But it was ignored. Good work. In the living room. Reiju has long sleeves and is good at dancing, entertaining everyone. In the process of communicating with Robin, Perona and others, I intentionally or unintentionally inquired about the news. But before they could find out more useful information, they saw William and Judge walking out of the conference hall with smiles on their faces. It seemed that the two of them were having a great time talking to each other. Seeing this, Reiju, who was still a little uneasy, couldn't help but relax a little. Reiju's siblings came to Judge's side. William, sir. And met William. Robin, Wappa, Perona and others also stood up one after another. Mr. William and I have reached an intention to cooperate. Judge smiled. There he said to his children with high spirits, from now on, the two families will formally form an alliance. The Hell Pirates will be responsible for providing the money, and we Germa will be responsible for providing the technology to work together for a great cause. William nodded and said with a faint smile, in the early stage, our Hell Pirates will invest 30 billion in Germa, and we plan to increase it year by year. As long as our two families work together, this sea will be ours sooner or later. Not to mention the ordinary clone army. It also requires huge amounts of money and resources. If you just want to build a powerful giant army, tens of billions of Baileys are obviously not enough. Maybe, the gold brought from Sky Island will soon be insufficient. 30 billion. Reiju's pupils shrank sharply. Unlike the three IG brothers who have no big idea about money and are completely trained as super soldiers. Under the intentional training of Vinsmoke Judge, she, the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family, has begun to get involved in all matters of Germa. Although he has not been truly decentralized, he is in charge of Germa's finances. But it is natural to know that 30 billion is a huge sum of money, which is enough for Germa to accept employment for this war. Especially since this is only the initial investment. Is this guy William from hell so rich? As for Wappa, Robin, Lafitte and others, although they were full of surprises, they were a little confused. But naturally he would not have any objections to William, the boss's decision. Didn't interrupt. Reiju, from today on behalf of the Vinsmoke family, you will follow Mr. William, obey his orders, and be responsible for liaison. Judge said directly, with a tone that could not be refused. Reiju was surprised, but nature will not disobey the orders of Vinsmoke Judge. Glancing at William's handsome figure, he nodded gently, yes, Kwong. Has she become a hostage? Half an hour later, underground in the kingdom of Germa. In a huge experimental base. Whether it's Robin, Brooke or the others, their pupils can't help but twitch. Everyone sucked in the cold air, some with numb scalps, and stared blankly at the almost identical human beings in the huge jars with numbers and filled with culture fluid. Even William himself, although mentally prepared, was still inevitably a little shocked. Are these all? Looking at the human beings in these containers, Robin was filled with horror. Yes, Miss Robin, they are all replicas cloned by extracting the genes of Germa's strongest soldiers, that is, artificial humans. Reiju on the side was introducing. Is this kind of thing possible? Looking up at the culture vessels and the people inside, Perona was inexplicably shocked. Incredible. This is amazing. Is this why there are rumors that Germa soldiers are not afraid of death on the battlefield? Wappa, Lafitte, Hogba Gu and others could not help but marvel. It wasn't until this moment that they understood why William suddenly decided to cooperate with Germa. The Hell Pirates are not short of money now. As long as energy continues to be mass-produced, there will be an army that is completely unafraid of death and absolutely obedient, coupled with an increasingly large and powerful army of 340 servants. It will start to snowball in no time. Obtain the qualification to challenge those big forces head-on. Human beings can create. There, Judge said in a deep voice. Dr. Vegapunk, the world's #1 genius scientist, once formed an illegal overseas research team, MADS, when he was young. I was also a member of it. Vegapunk accidentally discovered the blood factor existing in living organisms, but I prefer to call it the life design. In short, this discovery can be said to have touched the realm of God. Later, the deeply disturbed world government regarded the research on blood factor as dangerous behavior and ordered the arrest of the MADS team. Later, Vegapunk was bribed by the world government, joined the Marine Science Force, and began to serve the world government. He escaped smoothly, returned to the Kingdom of Germa to continue research in this area, and finally successfully developed cloning technology and bloodline factor (CECG) transformation technology. So that's it. Robin suddenly understood. Reiju, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes, staring deeply at his father, Vinsmoke Judge. Instinctively, I noticed that something was not quite right about this father, and he was a little confused. Because, according to her understanding of her father, he is extremely proud and conceited, and has always been extremely unconvinced by Dr. Vegapunk, a genius scientist. Not willing to mention the other party at all. Not to mention admitting in front of others that the other person is the world's #1 genius scientist. Next, Shueiji, you first try to produce a batch of ordinary clones transformed by the Blood Emperor as soon as possible to send troops. Looking at the artificial humans in these containers, William said directly, I will find people with ripe fruits as soon as possible, and ripen them directly to save the time of cultivating them in the nutrient solution. I will fully verify their combat effectiveness before considering whether to mass production is required. As for the blood samples of the giants, I can give them to you later. He decided to clone a group of ordinary human soldiers first and transform them with blood factors to confirm the effect before considering whether to mass produce them. As for cloning the giants, there is no need to be so anxious. If even ordinary human cloned soldiers cannot meet his requirements after undergoing blood factor transformation, there is no need to consider cloning humans. After all, if he wants to recruit ordinary giant warriors, it's not that it can't be done. Be careful. Outside, on the ship of terror. At William's order, one zombie soldier after another began to carry a large amount of gold to the Kingdom of Germa. This gold, Reiju, the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family, couldn't help but be stunned. Especially, seeing the dazzling, extremely luxurious and eye-catching golden clock tower standing on the training ground. Even more speechless. Don't be surprised, we found the legendary Golden Land, so we are not short of money at all. Robin didn't hide anything. He smiled and said directly, I think you, who came from North Blue, should be very familiar with the story of the great liar Noland, right? In my heart, I felt a trace of pity for the girl in front of me. Since William finalized the cooperation so simply, he showed a gesture of 100% trust. She vaguely guessed that the Supreme Commander of Germa 66 was most likely under the control of the other party. In fact, maybe he has turned into a zombie who obeys his orders. Hey, the legendary Golden Land. Hearing this, Reiju was stunned and lost his voice. The story in the comic book is actually true. The liar Noland and the Land of Gold. This is North Blue's well-known comic book story, which has been published in children's books. Who would have thought? This story that has been circulating in North Blue for nearly 400 years is actually true. Nolan did not lie, the legendary Golden Land really existed. No wonder Hell William is so wealthy. Then, the Golden Land has sunk to the bottom of the sea. Reiju took a deep breath and asked curiously. No, I heard that nearly half of the island was washed away by the giant sea currents to the Sky Island, which is 10,000 meters high. Robin spread his hands and said with a smile, so, when the king and his people rushed to Gaia Island, they did not find the existence of the Golden Land. She hasn't been to Sky Island yet either. Because when William and the others went to Sky Island, she also searched for historical monuments around the entrance to the first half of the Grand Line. Sky Island, Reiju exclaimed. Incredible. ... At this time, those zombie soldiers no longer carry gold. Instead, they worked together to carry huge and heavy pieces of metal. It quickly caught Reiju's attention. What are these? This is morphological memory alloy, a very rare synthetic metal with extremely high scientific research value. Only our Hell pirates have it in this world. After William finished explaining some matters to Judge, it didn't matter. Babu came back and said, it can be used to upgrade your Germa's combat uniform. These morphological memory alloys. Naturally, Wapple, the tool man, used the ability of Munch fruit to synthesize it on weekdays. Now it comes in handy. What? Shape memory alloy? Reiju was shocked and inexplicable, looking at William in disbelief. She is no stranger to morphological memory alloys. Because his father, Vinsmoke Judge, once mentioned this ideal rare alloy and was full of yearning and admiration for it. But unfortunately, it currently only exists in theory and cannot be manufactured at all. The Hell Pirates actually own this metal. Real or fake? So, goodbye. I'm looking forward to your results, Judge. Don't worry, with the morphological memory alloy, I believe the morphological memory armor I dream of will be completed in a short time. Father, take care of yourself. Have a nice trip, Mr. Judge. That afternoon did not stay any longer. At the command of Vinsmoke Judge, one by one, the Katsuyu battleships began to separate there, formed a formation, and were ready to set off. On the terrifying ship opposite, William, Robin, Reiju and others watched the fleet of Germa 66 slowly leave. But what is strange is that the fleet of Germa 66 actually split into two groups and ran in different directions. There is no other reason. Because of William's proposal, Judge made a decision directly and prepared to divert to the Grand Line. I plan to personally go to the future kingdom of Bakamoa to acquire the laser technology and related design drawings that Dr. Vegapunk left in his hometown, as well as some other related technologies, to design a more powerful battle suit. As for the war employment in a certain kingdom, it was directly handed over to his three chief sons. The three brothers Iji, Niji, and Yongji, who had been strictly trained since childhood, were responsible for leading the team. Well, although there were some episodes, the result was still pleasant. William was stretching there with a chuckle. As for Judge, can he rely on the technology that Dr. Vegapunk left in his hometown and combine it with morphological memory alloy to create a more powerful battle suit based on the original one? He was looking forward to it. I didn't expect you to know so well about the experimental base drive Vegapunk left in his hometown and what technologies he hid. Looking at the high-spirited William in front of him, Reiju, who had to stay and act as a hostage, took a deep breath. He took a breath and his eyes were full of surprise. She really didn't expect it. When Vegapunk was young, he had already developed laser technology. And he also left relevant technical information in the sealed laboratory in his hometown. Don't forget, I also have another identity, a member of the secret cipher Pol CP9 directly under the world government. William chuckled. I have to say that the identity of CP9 is sometimes very useful. Some unknown special information can be reasonably explained. Then world government is really unlucky to have picked an ambitious guy like you to train as CP. Robin covered his mouth and said with a chuckle. Don't say that. Over the years, I have been working hard at CP and have handled a lot of dirty work for them. William shrugged. Then, he stopped Wappa and others. Wappa, Lafitte, Brooke, Oka, you guys will get ready later. Lord William, Wappa and the others who were about to disperse and were doing their own activities were startled and looked over. Oka, you are from East Blue and should be very familiar with this place. I have a task for you. William took out 2 bounty lists and threw them directly to Van Oka. Take people to kill Baji Crow, the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, and Ghost Akin, the battle captain of the Krieg Pirates. Bring it back to me. This is also one of the reasons why he rushed to East Blue. Baji Crow and Ghost Akin are both very talented. It's just limited by small fish ponds like East Blue. Recruit them and train them well, and the future will be worth looking forward to. Of course, William just gave them a higher platform and a chance to become strong. How far they can go in the future ultimately depends on themselves. Lord William. After looking at the 2 reward lists, Lafitte was full of confusion. Is there anything special about these 2 guys? Baji Claude, the bounty is 11 million belly. Ghost Man Agent, the bounty is 5 million belly. These 2 people are completely useless. I'm afraid that just sending out any zombie squad leader can easily deal with them, right? Although East Blue is known as the weakest sea, that is because the living environment is relatively mild. It does not mean that East Blue cannot produce strong people. When I was in CP9, I paid special attention to the newcomers from Sea High. They still have some potential. William smiled and said, one has a good IQ, the other has good eyesight. I like them both. Anyway, just go and bring them back. He waved his hand. I wasn't prepared to explain too much. Such a small thing does not require him to do it himself. When he was in CP9, William did pay attention to the information of new pirates from all over the world, made some preparations secretly, and began to look for talents consciously or unconsciously. After all, William was not prepared to face the world government honestly from the beginning. I stayed in CP for so many years just to master the 6 styles in hockey, using it as a platform to make myself stronger. Quote. The end. William remembered something and directly ordered a few people. The captain of the Creek Pirates was once the benefactor of Ghost Man Akin. You can use his life as a condition to make this guy join us obediently. When the time comes, follow the life card back and join us. Since you want to recruit them, you can't do too much. You still have to try your best to make the other person feel at ease. Yes, Wappa, Brooke, Van Oka and others naturally have no objections. If they can't handle this little thing, they won't have the shame to follow Lord William. Lord William, what about me? Perona hurriedly raised her little hands. Previously with the addition of Nico Robin, she felt that her status in William's mind had plummeted. Now, here comes Vinsmoke Reju, who is still a noble royal princess. This gave Perona a sense of crisis. Eager to prove himself to Lord William. It's just a relatively simple task, and it won't require so many people. William glanced at her and said directly, you and Hogbaku and the others just stay on the ship. If you're so busy, how about doubling your training volume? Then no need. Not long after, in Perona's envious eyes, the Wappa people who were ready did not delay. Riding on a small sailboat, we left the terrifying ship. According to the guidance of the sea chart, prepare to go to nearby countries to inquire about relevant information. Late at night, in the castle of the terror ship, in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, Robin, who was sweating profusely and working out hard, turned around and rolled his eyes at William, who was patiently coaching him. My Lord William, shouldn't you go and accompany your Princess Germa? Don't make trouble, concentrate on training. William's face was not red and he was out of breath, and he was scolding. He never denied that he was very romantic, especially for beautiful women. Although Reju is really moist, he really doesn't dare to touch this woman who is full of poison at this stage. That guy Judge, is he under your control? Robin asked with a smile. Cooperation also requires strength. Obviously, Germa does not have that kind of strength. Moreover, that guy is not a peaceful person. If there is a more stable and safer way of 957, come on, there is no need for me to argue with him. William sneered. Having said this, I patted my head carefully and said, the next training event. Makes sense. Robin, with a rosy complexion, nodded suddenly. We already have a tacit understanding and understand someone's instructions instantly. He rolled his eyes at someone charmingly, but still stood up obediently, preparing for high-intensity fighting training. This little man likes this. I do not know how long it has been. Wait until the training is over. Robin, who was sweating profusely and losing too much water, felt weak all over and was too tired to stand up. Looking at William, who was still full of energy, his eyes were filled with resentment, and he said helplessly, "You are such an animal." "Next, it's time for fruit ability development training," William said with a smile. "I've been listening to the wall for 3 days, and I'm almost bad at it. You should go and collect that girl." Robin rolled his eyes and pointed to the opposite wall. That girl Perona used the power of the ghost fruit at every turn, and her spirit body came out of her body. Did she really not notice it? "Aren't you jealous?" William asked with a smile. "So much jealousy. Can I eat it?" Robin was helpless. She already knew what kind of man William was. But it is inevitable that they are attracted to each other like moths to a flame. "The meat can't escape in the pot. Don't worry, we'll talk about it another day. William is naturally not a gentleman. That girl from Perona has been my exclusive pillow for so long. Except for the last step, every level has been almost broken. If he hadn't put more energy into improving his own strength during that time, this girl would have been eaten to pieces." Hiss. William took a breath. "Are you serious? Don't you know that women are always duplicitous?" Robin smiled half-heartedly. "The more beautiful a woman is, the better she is at lying. Isn't that what you said? I only know that you are playing with fire and burning yourself." William did not give in and said angrily, "Today's training must be doubled. The next event is handstand horse balance training. Robin, if you don't meet the standard, I won't give in easily." Who's afraid of whom? Robin was naturally unwilling to admit defeat. Six-wheel flower. So many hands all at once. Are you a spider spirit? William's eyelids twitched and he was speechless. "Ability is also part of strength. Isn't that what you told me?" Robin was somewhat proud and plausibly said, "Shouldn't physical training and fruit development be a two-pronged approach? Just don't cry later." As a qualified coach, William felt the need to establish authority. Snort. The next day in paradise. A refreshed William just walked out of the room. "Reju. Morning. I met Reju, who was arranged on this floor and had just come out after washing up." "Morning, Lord William." Reju looked at William in astonishment. But he soon regained his natural look and gave up his professional smile. If she remembered correctly, that should be Robin's room, right? At first, she really didn't expect that Issa, who claimed to be William's assistant, was actually Nico Robin, the son of the devil, who was wanted by the world government with a reward of 100 million belly. However, as I stayed on the terrifying ship yesterday, I got to know the hell pirates better and better. After learning that those lifelike zombie legions, no different from living people, were actually from the Black Prison, William relied on the ability of the shadow fruit to implant his own shadow, or plundered shadow, into the corpses of others, controlling. She felt inexplicably uneasy, because his father, Judge, is a little too abnormal. "Did you have a good rest yesterday?" William asked with a smile. Quote. Reju responded with a smile. Could it be that she couldn't sleep at all because she was infertile? Looking at the young and handsome figure in front of her, her eyes were a little complicated. "By the way, I heard that in addition to the 3 brothers Ig, Niji, and Yongji, you also have a younger brother." William seemed to have remembered something and asked directly. "Yes, but he was separated when he was very young." Reju's eyes shrank, but he still forced a smile on Kaido. "I heard that there is a famous Bharati Sea restaurant in East Blue, and there is an apprentice there named Sanji." William patted Reju's shoulder lightly and said meaningfully, "Maybe. He is your long-lost brother." Reju was shaken all over. Looking at William in disbelief, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. "You are a smart man. I believe there are many things that cannot be hidden from you. What should be done and what should not be done. You don't need me to teach you, right?" William stroked Reju's pretty face and said with a smile. "Father, you really." Reju froze, looking at William blankly. The bad premonition in my heart finally became a reality. She was a little overwhelmed, inexplicably confused, and at a loss as to what to do. But it's not as sad as imagined. At this moment, she discovered that her father treated these children as tools to realize his ambitions. "I actually don't have very deep emotions. It was even confirmed that the other party had had an accident." There was absolutely no emotion like grief, anger, or hatred. In addition to being inevitably a little sad, the whole person felt inexplicably relieved. It's like being liberated. How is this going? Inside the castle, Reiju, who had been staying there for a long time, came to his senses. Looking at the already empty corridor, he sighed quietly. She seemed to be at the mercy of others. There has never been a chance to choose one's own destiny. Bharati Restaurant, Mountain. After an unknown amount of time, Reiju took a deep breath, suppressed those messy thoughts in his heart, and came outside the castle. She didn't know whether the news William said was true or false. But obviously he didn't dare to gamble. Compared with the three brothers Ig, Niji, and Yuji who have no emotions and have been transformed into war machines. In Reiju's mind, his once weak brother Sanji was not a failure. It was her mother, Sola, who risked her life and took banned drugs to give birth to the only child with feelings in order to fight against her father Vinsmoke Judge's dehumanizing blood factor transformation. He never hoped that he, who had finally left an evil family like Vinsmoke and could live as an ordinary person, would be involved in such a thing again. Just walked out of the castle, passing by the number 2 training ground. This is William's own exclusive training ground. It was a training ground that William specially prepared for himself in order not to affect other people, but also in order to be able to concentrate on training and develop his fruitful abilities. From a distance, I noticed that William was wearing a seastone and squatting up and down with dumbbells. Those should be seastone handcuffs, right? Reiju was full of surprise. He directly asked a zombie soldier next to him, "Your Lord William, has he always been trained?" Rumor has it that Hell William, who is known as the strongest CP9 genius in the past 800 years, actually trains so hard on weekdays. As a person with abilities, the opponent is wearing a seastone. It's actually possible to do this. It's really not simple. What's this? Master William has just started to warm up. The zombie soldier was full of pride and raised his chin directly. Kaido said, "A few days ago, at the prehistoric island in the Grand Line, Sir William used the mountain as a sandbag for training." Using the mountain as a sandbag? Are you kidding me? Reiju's face was filled with astonishment and some disbelief. You don't believe it? The zombie's eyes widened. Looking at Reiju who was full of disbelief, he pointed directly to the other side of the training ground. One side was about 5 or 6 meters high and extremely thick. It was covered with huge marks and some uneven iron walls. See as that pitted iron wall. I heard that it is made of the strongest morphological memory alloy. Even if real artillery shells hit it, it cannot shake it. Share, but usually, Lord William uses it as a sandbag for training, hitting it day and night, without wearing any armor, and without using hockey for defense. Deaf. Reiju heard this. He couldn't help but shrink his eyes sharply. Gasped, looking at the uneven and shocking iron wall. Vaguely, it can indeed be judged that some traces should be left by fists and feet. He stared blankly at William's tall and hard-working figure, who kept squatting up and down with dumbbells. Are these all left by that man? It's incredible. As expected, not long, Reiju saw it. William, who was wearing seastone handcuffs, put down the warm-up equipment. Quote. When he came to the huge and thick iron wall, he kept punching, swinging his legs, elbows, and knees. With a face full of determination, he beat it wildly without saying a word. The thick iron wall made a roaring sound. It makes people's scalp tingle just looking at it. What a monster. Reiju witnessed this scene. Her eyelids twitched, and she was deeply shocked. Even she, and several of her brothers, had undergone the transformation of bloodline factors. With an extremely tough exoskeleton, they could be said to be invulnerable to swords and guns. They did not dare to practice so crazily. With this level of training, your Lord William is not afraid of hurting his body and leaving hidden dangers. Reiju could not help but ask the zombie soldier on standby. Don't worry about that. Dr. Hogubagu, the ship's doctor, is the user of the Paramesha repair fruit and can treat Lord William as soon as possible. Because Reiju is the eldest daughter of the Vinsmoke family and has a special status, the zombie soldier did not hide it, and he also specially prepared a special potion for Lord William to bathe and soak every day to ensure that there will be no injuries. In addition, Lord William's physical fitness is not what ordinary people can imagine. Normally, No matter how tired he is, he can become lively immediately after waking up. In fact, in addition to William's amazing physical fitness, more importantly, it was the effect of the life return secret. But this zombie soldier was just an ordinary minion, so he naturally didn't know this. There was a moment of silence. Reiju, who was about to go back, saw two sweaty figures running along the coastline. They were Perona and Hoguburu, wearing weight-bearing clothes, holding heavy dumbbells in both hands, and training there with gritted teeth. In the sky, there was also a huge pterosaur, on which sat a figure dressed as a samurai, shouting from time to time. He looked at the figure on the training ground who was persistently hitting the iron wall. Reiju hesitated for a moment, but finally made up his mind. He caught up with Perona and Hoguburu. He joined the training. A ship as big as an island. It's a bit familiar, it seems to be the ship of the King's 10th Sea. 2 days later. At noon when the sun was shining brightly. East Blue, Logue Town. The huge ship of terror came slowly. It caused a sensation instantly. Countless merchants, pirates, nobles, all stared with their eyes wide open, looking at the huge ship like an island in disbelief. Some people were full of anxiety and fled at the first time. Lord William, Logue Town is ahead. On the number 2 training ground. A zombie navigator hurried over and reported there. Oh, really? William, who was sweating profusely and constantly hitting the alloy iron wall, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. After a while, he stopped training and took off the seastone handcuffs. Took the towel from a zombie attendant. Wiped the sweat. Are we finally here? The legendary town of beginning and end. The hometown of Pirate King Roger, and the place where the Pirate King was publicly executed. At this time, on the number 1 training ground, Robin, Perona, Hogubagu and others who were originally practicing were also full of surprise. They all stopped training and came to the coast, looking at the island ahead that was getting clearer and clearer. Even Reiju, who had been to East Blue more than once, had never been to Logue Town. They were looking forward to this legendary town. Now, far away at the Grand Line, Naval Headquarters. Xiaohei, haven't you found the whereabouts of that brat William from hell? In the marshal's office, Sengoku asked directly to the Marine Vice Admiral in front of him. As for the world government, they issued strict orders to him. Demand that Hell William and Nico Robin be captured as soon as possible. One is a genius who was once hailed as the strongest CP9 in 800 years, and knows too many secrets. One is a survivor of West Blue O'Hara, and he is most likely the only person in the world who can decipher historical Chinese. The two men got mixed up. It's just too dangerous. Disturbing. No, that guy and the devil's son, Nico Robin seemed to have disappeared suddenly. Crane Vice Admiral shook his head helplessly. She frowned and speculated. I suspect they are probably hiding in the Calm Belt. Calm Belt? That would be troublesome. Buddha Sengoku frowned. The Calm Belt serves as a lair for large sea kings. The islands inside are dotted all over, and there are indeed quite a few. Even Marine's new battleship is inlaid with seastone, which can release the same energy as the sea, avoid attracting the attention of the sea kings as much as possible, and can enter and exit freely from the Calm Belt. But there is still no guarantee that it will not be attacked by those large sea kings. Warships must be careful every time they enter or leave there. Not to mention wanting to search for targets from there. Bulu, Bolo. Suddenly, the phone rang suddenly. Buddha's Sengoku directly picked up the phone and answered the call. What's the matter? Marshal Sengoku, this is East Blue Logue Town. A somewhat panicked report came from the phone bug. Just now, the terrifying ship of Gecko Moria, one of the 7 warlords of the sea, suddenly appeared in Logue Town. What did you say? Gecko Moria. Buddha's Sengoku raised his eyebrows and his voice suddenly became high-pitched. Why did that guy suddenly go to East Blue? Vice Admiral Crane, who was sitting opposite, couldn't help but look over, full of surprise. As Gecko Moria from 7 warlords of the sea, why did he suddenly go to the weakest East Blue? I remember it's the commander who is currently in charge of Logue Town. It should be that guy Smoker, right? Crane Vice Admiral frowned slightly and said there is no way. Every move involving these big pirates. They can't tolerate their contempt. Even if the 7 warlords of the sea were recruited by the world government. The relationship with Marine is ostensibly an ally. But pirates are pirates. Privately, After all, we are not the same people. If there is a chance, it is hard to say when to directly attack someone or stab him in the face. I don't know. Colonel Smoker has already rushed there with his people. The correspondent reported on the other end of the phone. Tell Smoker not to act rashly. Buddha Sengoku frowned and said loudly, pay close attention to every move of the Hell Pirates and report it at any time. Pirates of the level of 7 warlords of the sea are not something that a mere East Blue Marine branch base can fight against. Once a quarrel breaks out, the situation will not be easy to deal with. Yes. Click. Hang up bug. Buddha's Sengoku looked worried. These unruly Shichibukai are really a bunch of troublesome guys. None of them are worried. Why are they going to East Blue? On the scale of a ship of terror. Even there is no need to install any seastone. It can also easily pass through the calm belt, which is the nest of the Sea Kings and is classified as a restricted area for ship navigation. According to the information we have received, Moria has captured many pirates and bounty hunters in the New World. It is estimated that he wants to seize their shadows and use the ability of the shadow fruit to create more zombie armies. Analyzing the relevant information about the Hell Pirates these days, Crane Vice Admiral shook his head helplessly. It's just that now he suddenly crossed the calm belt and ran to the East Blue. In recent days, Gecko Moria's behavior has been a bit abnormal, which is really unpredictable. I hope nothing more will happen. Buddha Sengoku said with a frown. What if Hell William and Nico Robin were hiding on the ship of terror? Suddenly, Crane Vice Admiral thought of something and blurted it out. What? Hear the words. Buddha Sengoku's expression changed. Looking at Vice Admiral He in shock, his face became serious. Xiao He, are you sure you are leaving? Once Hell William and Nico Robin really got involved with Gecko Moria, the 7 warlords of the sea. That's no ordinary incident. It's just some guesses, I can't be sure. Crane Vice Admiral shook his head slightly and said bluntly, because Moria's behavior in recent days is so abnormal. In the past, that guy always hid in the Devil's Triangle and refused to come out. And in terms of time, it was also after Hell William caused a scene in Ennie's lobby and betrayed the world government. When you say that, it's indeed not impossible. Hearing what Vice Admiral Crane said, Sengoku looked shocked. He frowned and paced back and forth. The more he thought about it, the more likely it became. That guy Garp seems to be on vacation in East Blue, right? However, Sengoku just finished speaking. Crane Vice Admiral directly poured a bucket of cold water on him. The problem is that Gecko Moria has the status of 7 warlords of the sea. Even we, Marine, cannot take action against him at will. This is troublesome. Buddha Sengoku clenched his fists, feeling a little aggrieved. Even he, the Marshal of the Naval Headquarters who seems to have great power and is all-powerful, sometimes has many worries and constraints when he wants to do something. Especially when it comes to 7 warlords of the sea. A little carelessness may affect the balance of the sea. Crane Vice Admiral breathed a sigh of relief and said helplessly, we can only leave it to the CP and let them investigate secretly. At this time, East Blue, Logue Town. William transformed into the swift swordsman Yasuo. We just boarded the port of Logue Town with Robin, Reiju, and Perona disguised as Issa. A team of armed Marines hurried over and blocked the front nervously. The leader was a somewhat unruly young man with short white hair, wearing a large off-white coat with the word, Justice, on it, and holding 2 cigars in his mouth. Where's Gecko Moria? He glanced around. No sign of Moria, the 7 warlords of the sea, was found. Looking at William in front of him, he frowned and asked, who on earth are you? This is the vice captain of our Hell Pirates, Lord, Swordsman of the Swift Wind, Yasuo. Perona put her hands on her hips and said arrogantly, Wang Qianzhao, Marine, if a good dog doesn't block the way, why don't you get out of the way? How? Looking at the white-haired young man holding 2 cigars in front of him. William, who recognized the other party's identity, crossed his arms and chuckled. I remember that in the agreement signed by our Captain Moria and the world government, there was no restriction that the 7 warlords of the sea and the forces under their command could not log in. How about going on a sightseeing trip to an island under the rule of the world government? Of course not, I'm just here to warn you. Smoker looked directly at the figure in front of him and said in a deep voice, if you dare to do anything that violates Shichibukai regulations in Logue Town, I will arrest you. Arrest us. For a while, William laughed. The next moment, all Marine's eyes blurred. His figure was like a ghost, and he instantly appeared in front of Smoker, whose pupils shrank sharply and was a little frozen. Putting his right hand on his shoulder, he bowed his head next to his ear and said with an extremely arrogant smile, "I admire your courage, but it's a pity that you don't have that kind of strength. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."